everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com. Shop there today and make yourself look good.
Welcome, everyone, to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. It's going to be a fantastic show here tonight. We have author and experiencer Julie Ohlson, and the book is titled Dark Secrets and Hidden Lies, a 1982 Willerny UFO case. We're going to be having a great time here tonight. Great conversation, guys, so get ready for that. And let me go ahead and see who has actually come on in the chat here tonight, courtesy of Kitty Catty Whack. Actually tonight looks like we have Race Fan with the gold, we have Kitty Catty Whack with the silver, and then Alien Encounters with the bronze. Nice. Thanks for coming on in, guys. Thanks for coming in bright and early. We appreciate you. We also have Roger Murray giving us some knowledge. June 28, 1967, Taipei, Taiwan. Sai Chang Hung photographs 3 flying saucers. Thanks for keeping us informed, Roger Murray. Awesome as always. And also appreciate you coming on in. We got Mel WD40, obviously, getting us lubed up and ready for the show. But that's what he does. That's his job, and he does it very well. Appreciate you coming on in, Mel WD40. Also, we have, who else do we have? We have Frankie B. Frankie B is in the building. Thanks for showing up here tonight, Frankie B. Appreciate you coming on in. Also, we have, who else do we have? Woo Riders DG, Derek Galloway. Appreciate you coming on in. God bless to all of humanity. Positive message, DG. Love it. Appreciate you showing up. We have Patricia Atkinson saying, hi, Julie. You got this. And she does got this. It's going to be a fantastic show. You can bet that. Thanks for coming on in. Who else do we have? We got Kurt M. Hi, all with the wavy hand emojis. Appreciate you showing on up. We got David Norenberg. That's all about I decided to do all day was catch up on all the science and medical lectures. Nice, David Norenberg. Appreciate you coming on into the show here. We have Deanna Ann saying hi there. Hi, Deanna Ann. Thanks for showing up here to the show tonight. We also have Super Crazy Movie Geek. Oh, yeah, we want retribution. That's how we bring in the show, because that is exactly what we want. Thanks for coming on in here tonight. We also have the Jaquetta saying, hello, friends. Hello, Jaquetta. Appreciate you coming on in. We have Bob Thor saying, hi, Rob. Hey, Bob. Thanks for coming on in. We have Looks like we're current. Nice. Okay, great. So, Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show, we're about to start the podcast side of this here in about 10 seconds. So, I have enough time to say hello to any last minute people coming in, like Gory Tiger, who's saying, What's up, Gory Tiger? Thanks for coming on in to the show tonight. Sonia Ohlson as well. Ohlson must mean, maybe related. Sending love right back to you. We're starting the podcast side right about now. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. We're going to have a fantastic show tonight. We have author and experiencer Julie Ohlson coming in for hours 1 and 2. And we have, actually, Steve Stockton Tells Untold Missing Mysteries. No Drew Banky, because he's moving. So shout out to Drew Banky. And we're getting ready to start this show in about 2 seconds. Here we go. Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I'm your host, Mr. Rob G. And tonight, we're broadcasting on our terrestrial affiliates across North America, plus digitally on digital platforms all around the world. Don't forget, you can access our archives for absolutely free. YouTube.com/@spacedoutradio, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SR Newswire. You can get yourself some official Spaced Out swag. Plus, you can rock out to the man that you hear right now, Rambo Mufathal, and oh so much more. Once again, it's going to be a fantastic show here tonight. We have Julie Ohlson, experiencer, author. We're going to be talking about UFO encounters in trauma. Where do the lines intersect? They might intersect right here tonight. Don't go anywhere. This is going to be a fantastic show as we get ready to jump right on into it. Just so you know, Drew Banky is out tonight, so we will be doing something a little different in hour 3. We still will have Steve Stockton Tells Untold Missing Mysteries. Some UFO news. Maybe we'll do some unapologetically, Mr. Rob G. I'm still on the fence. We'll see what happens. Either way it goes, it's going to be a great show, so make sure that you don't go anywhere as we go ahead and get ready to start and bring in our guest. And I want to say hi to Miss Mary. Hi, Miss Mary. We want to go ahead and bring in our guest here tonight, Julie Ohlson, and she is here. I promise. She is right here. Hi, Julie. How are you?
Oh, good.
All right. So glad to have you. We've talked over the last month or so and really got to kind of get to know each other. And I totally understand where this show is going to go and why this show is going to be so important for people out there. We've talked about this. I would like to introduce you to everyone and maybe get to know who you are just as an individual, and then maybe talk about any experiences that led you into wanting to do what it is that you're doing today, being an author and everything.
First of all, thank you for having me on your show, Rob. And I just want Sonia Ohlson is my daughter. So hi, Sonia. And then Pat Atchison is my neighbor down the hill from me. So hi, Pat. And I am Julie Ohlson, and I live in Minnesota, land of 10,000 lakes. And I'm married. I've been married for going on 37 years now. And I have 3 daughters, Tina, 40, Leisha, 35, and Sonia, soon to be 29. And I also have a new grandbaby. She's 7 months old, Layla. So
congratulations.
Yeah, 3 grandkids, James 18, Taylin 14, and Layla 7 months. And they're in my life. My grandchildren are everything to me, and my daughters. So I was born in 1963. I'm 61 years old. I live in northern Minnesota on the lake, and I live in God's country. And nice. I'm a pretty upbeat person, and I love life. And I've been through some trauma. At age 61, I'm still in counseling. I stay in counseling for trauma bond therapy just because it helps me. And I have my moments where I get, I'm very emotional, and I hurt easily, so just because of my upbringing and stuff. And I get very insecure, and but for the most part, I'm doing pretty well. I'm got a college education. I was in the dental field for 17 years, and I'm just like just living life and enjoying my grandkids and just my life on the lake.
Well,
So
that's beautiful. I want to say real quick,
yeah,
that's beautiful, and I know we'll be addressing the trauma here or what may have been some of the root of it tonight. And I think this is going to be, and I'm glad you brought it up so soon because I think it's going to be an important show for those who may be experiencing some sort of trauma, whether related to the phenomena or not. I think it's going to be something great that everyone will be able to walk away with something from the show here tonight. So that's going to be awesome. I did want to kind of, as a child, because we talked about an encounter that you actually had as a child. And if you wouldn't mind kind of starting there, because that'll kind of set the stage for where we go.
sure. Well, I grew up with we lived in a little 2-bedroom shack in the little town of Willerny. By the way, my book is Dark Secrets, Hidden Lies in the 1982 Willerny. I should have put Minnesota because people are probably thinking, where's Willerny? Willerny is in Minnesota, and this is where it happened. And but I grew up in a 2-bedroom. We were very poor, and there's six, including me, there's 6 of us kids, and we had a pretty hard upbringing, and I suffered a lot of abuse because I was not my father's daughter. The other kids were, but I didn't know I wasn't. That's why my book has 2 titles, The Dark Secrets and Hidden Lies. My mother hid this dark secret. She didn't want anybody to know that I was not Rollins. When Rollin is who I thought was my father. He's deceased now a few years back. But anyway, so there was a lot of trauma and a lot of like, you're no daughter of mine, and a lot of abuse and a lot of being singled out and stuff. But when I had my experience at 8 years old, I used to suffer headaches as a child and even into my teenage years. Well, Rollin would come home from the bar, and there was a hamburger sitting. I have to tell the detail. There was a hamburger sitting in the pan, and my mom said Julie didn't eat the hamburger because she's got another one of those headaches. Well, he got me out of bed and said I had to eat it, and I couldn't. And he slugged me really hard, and the corner of my head hit the wall. So then I went into the bedroom and I locked myself into the closet. Can you imagine 8 years old doing this? And I was crying and pleading, and I'm like, God, I need help. Somebody needs to help me. I wanted to always save my mom from him, from all the things that I've seen him dehumanize her. And so anyway, just about a few days later, like I said, I was 8 years old and went into the closet. A few days later, my brother and I, we had 2 bedrooms. My mom, June, my mother's name was June. June and Rollin had a room. And then we had a little tiny bedroom. It didn't have a door on it, but it just had a bunk bed in there. So a bottom bunk and a top bunk. And then my 3 brothers slept out in the living room on a couch bed. So it was, can you imagine 6 kids and 2 bedrooms? It was just very tight. Oh, yeah. Very tight. Yeah. So anyway, I was laying in bed. My parents were up at the bar just up the street. They were at the Flame Bar, and they didn't go up there together. My mother was in a pool league, and Rollin was just a drunk. And but I was laying in bed on the bottom bunk with my brother, and I loved singing "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star." I sang that song all the time. Anyway, we were laying there, and it was probably about 10 o'clock at night, and my brother put his hand. So I'm towards the wall, and then he's on the edge. And then at the foot of our bed is the doorway, but we didn't have a door in that room. But as I was singing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, he put his hand over my mouth, and he kind of pinched my arm, and he said, look. And I'm like, what? Because we're laying down. And I look, and in the doorway, there was a figure, and at first I thought it was maybe like someone our age, like it, because it was the image that I got was like about 4 feet tall, but we had a window behind the bunk bed, and and I said the flame bar was literally right up the road, but they had a big street light, a big light in their parking lot. So that light reflected into our window so I could see the doorway, it wasn't like that dark, but enough for me to see. And it wasn't human, what I seen. And so my brother hit the blanket over his face, and I looked at it, and this is the God's honest truth. My eyes, when I looked at it, my eyes locked with whatever this was. And I have no other explanation. It looked like, I know this is going to sound crazy, but it had a leprechaun look. It was short. It had the wide mouth, and it had like real coarse hair around its face, and big dark, like shiny eyes. And it had like a black coat on with all these like shiny things. I mean, I'm just trying to, but I can't see from like the waist down. I could see the hands, but they weren't really hands. They were like nubs, and I couldn't see anymore because you got to remember I'm on the bottom bunk, so my projection I couldn't see. But as I'm looking at this, it just locked eyes with me, and I couldn't blink my eyes. I couldn't, my eyes were just asphyxiated on this, whatever it was. I call it a humanoid. And I just got like frozen, but at the same time, I was scared, but I wasn't. And my brother was still like just shaking with the blanket over him. And so I finally, this went on for like a few minutes, and then I finally blinked my eyes and opened my eyes, and it was gone. So whatever that was, it wasn't a figure of my imagination. I know what I seen. My brother knows what he's seen. And just a few days before that, I told you I went into that closet and I was crying, and I wanted someone to save me and my mother. Yeah, that's me at 8 years old. And talk about an experience. Like, what was that? Shortly after that, my mother did come home. And back then we didn't lock our doors because we were in the town I lived in, we only had 300 and, cause I looked back and stuff, but 380 people in our little town of Willarney. So my mother came in, and we were screaming in the bedroom when we knew she was home. And then she came in and asked us what was wrong. And my brother got to see, for a little bit, because he's the one that seen it first and pinched my arm. But I got to see it for longer than he did because he put the blanket over his head. And so we told her what had happened, and she turned on the lights and checked out the house, and there was nothing there. But I was left with this feeling. I know this sounds a little, when I was pleading for someone to help me, and even though this was scary, I kind of related in my mind that humanoid or whatever, leprechaun, was there for me. I know as a little girl that sounds crazy, but it just kept, I still can see the face to this day, the eyes. It's so vivid,
Let me ask you, Julie, real quick. Is that what you drew the image of that, right? Or what you recalled? Okay, and I know we have that. So you go ahead and continue. I'll bring that up.
Okay, so there it is. So now, we end up moving out of that house, and we moved to in the town I lived in too. I wanted to tell you how I told you it looked like a leprechaun. We lived in the little town of Willarney. We lived on Killarney Street, and the bars that were behind us, the Flame Bar and the Leprechaun Bar, those were the two bars that we had: the Piccadilly, the Flame Bar, and the Leprechaun Bar. So, and we're going to go 40 years now later because I have to explain this picture. When MUFON, and does everybody know what MUFON is? Minnesota MUFON. They contacted me December 19th of 2019. I got a letter in the mail. I lived in Sartell, Minnesota. And I actually have the letter. And they said, "Are you the girl that experienced, Rob, I know because they asked me if I experienced, what I did at 18 years old." But
Yes.
in that conversation, they asked me, have you ever experienced anything before? And I was talking with the president from MUFON, Bill McNiff is his name. And I said, yes, I did experience something at 8 years old. And he's like, well, Julie, can you sketch that for me? And I do believe that I gave you a copy of that email.
Yes.
Yes.
And
So
we'll get to that. Just explain this here.
I am going to do that. So he asked me to sketch what I seen. And so I'm like, okay. So I sketched it and I emailed him. And then he calls me back and he's like, Julie, you didn't sketch like an alien. And I said, well, I didn't see an alien. I don't know what this is, but I mean, this is what I seen. And so then he sends me, that's all in detail. And the forehead, I thought it was like a hat with the rim, because I was thinking that this creature was wearing a hat. It's not. It was just the big ears and the big forehead and the real scalloped cheeks and the wide mouth. And this little creature didn't even move. It didn't even move anything. It just the eyes were so big and shiny and black that they just locked right on with my eyes. But so anyway, I did the sketch and he sends me, do you have that? What he sends the picture?
Yes. He sent you, I believe it was this.
Yes. So Bill McNeff goes, oh my gosh, Julie, hold on. I got to send you something. And this is from Brazil in 1969. 2 military guys were abducted by this. When Bill sent me this picture, I'm like, that's what I seen. I mean, I said, Bill, even my drawing is pretty close, but this is even more right on. And I just got the chills and I started crying. I couldn't even believe it. And so that was pretty bizarre in itself because, here you got the president from MUFON, Minnesota, and he's thinking that I'm going to draw an alien with the big eyes, and how they look. And I didn't. I said, no, this is what I seen. And so when I got this, I was just blown away, Rob, because how can that be? How can I sketch something and I get this picture after? And even Bill had the chills. He was just like, wow, this is just. And I said 4 feet tall. This guy's 4 feet tall. So what was that in my bedroom that night when I was 8 years old? It's just, is this a coincidence? I mean, you can't make anything like that up.
Yeah,
So,
in the cryptid world, especially with the phenomenon deals with UFOs and aliens, also the whole Bigfoot lore, also cryptids. And this could fit in the cryptid category. It could technically fit into the extraterrestrial category because we don't know what they all look like. This could be what one of them look like. But it's interesting to know that this is where this started for you. So at 8 years old, this is your experience. So did your brother was there with you? Did he also see this thing as well?
He did. He was a year younger than me. I was 8 and he was 7. And he's seen it first. And I was, like I said, I was singing. I still remember I was singing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And he pinched my arm and he slapped his hand over my face and he told me to look. And then, we're on the bottom bunk. So I'm looking and I'm like, and he had put the blanket over his face and I could just feel his little body shaking the whole time next to me, just trembling. But I wasn't afraid of it. So, and whatever it did, it pulled me in. It was almost like the eyes were like a magnet. This is a true story, and I have no reason to lie, as God is my witness. This has really happened. This wasn't like something an 8-year-old just makes up. And
and I think this comes across. I already know that there are people that definitely feel like you are speaking the truth here. And so the question would be, obviously, the event that we're going to talk about happens years later. So the day after this, or just even a couple years after this, did you ever speak about that entity to anyone outside of your brother, like friends or just anyone else?
Yes. We had a neighbor, and I'm sure he's watching tonight too, Mikey Boilu. My brother told him. He told a bunch of our neighbors. I told my girlfriends. I can't say their name on live, but I mean, the town, a lot of people knew about this. My mother told her twin and her sisters, and yes, this was talked about for a long time. And the thing, Rob, like we would play out at night. We didn't have cell phones and, the video games and all that. We played, ding dong ditch and whatever. We played outside, and I wasn't afraid to be outside or anything.
The real fun stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. The real fun stuff back then, so, but I wasn't scared. And, I don't know. It happened. And I think it's pretty bizarre. I mean, I got to see something like that. Like who in their lifetime sees something like that? And why did I see something like that? Was there a reason for that? Or when I was crying out? I mean, I don't know. And that's why when we talk about when I was 18 and some more trauma, I believe that there is something out there watching me and connected with me, and they're there for a good reason. So,
that is awesome. That is awesome. What did your, being that a lot of this story that we'll talk about tonight involves your mother, what was her response when you initially told her that you saw this?
Well, again, this was 45 years ago now. So, I mean, I can't remember all the detail, but she just, I think she had a few drinks in her because she was in a pool league, not a swimming pool, but a pool league, and told her, and we just got settled down and went to bed, and she checked out the house and then locked the doors, and there was no more of it. I mean, we talked about it in the morning, and I just told her every little detail, and yeah, and I mean, what can she say? I mean, she just knew about it, and then time passed.
Was there support there? Was she showing support in that moment, or?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She did ask me if I had a dream, and I'm like, no, and we said no, this was no dream, so.
Well, that's responsible of her. Yeah, you definitely want to go down the prosaic steps. And this is one thing, especially now that I've had experience with the phenomena, I know it's real based on experiences that I've had and recorded. And so I always look back and for as a child specifically, when children are known to go to parents and say, hey, I saw a monster under the bed, or there's something in the closet. And then you have to, once you experience it and know it's real, you have to ask yourself, is there something really there? And that's why I would say for parents today, just a PSA for parents today, if your child comes and says they see something under their bed, don't blow it off. Go check, because it literally could be something there based on what we know about the phenomena.
Right. And we had a tiny little house, and she checked out everything. And she even, like I said, we didn't lock our doors back then, but she locked the doors. And so it happened. And so, and then shortly after that, then I think 8, 9, 10, about 11 or 12, we moved out of that house, and we moved to in my town, like I said, I lived on Killarney, or Kinross was the house of the little 2-bedroom shack that we lived in. And then we moved down to Killarney in a 100-year-old house. And when I was 18, that's when I had my second experience. But what led up to that experience was all the trauma because again, Rollin knew I wasn't his daughter, and he dehumanized my mother. And back then, domestic abuse was just overlooked. I mean, they didn't, my mom would call the police, and yes, he was in and out of jail and this and that, and for hitting her and stuff. But it's not like it is today. There's more laws and there's more. But I suffered because I wasn't Rollin's biological daughter, and my mother was. I'm going to let the audience know the reason why my book is Dark Secrets and Hidden Lies. My mother was taken advantage of, and that's how I came into this world. And so
let me stop you right there. That's a great place to stop as we get ready to go into our first break of the night. Guys, already fantastic show. I think you see what this is going to be. Make sure you don't go anywhere. We will be right back right here on the Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. See you back here in just a minute.
stage out there.
All right, we are clear. We are clear. Okay. And so doing great, Julie, doing great. Awesome. And I'm going to go ahead and talk to some people that made it in late here tonight.
Sure.
We have Truth Wave Energy out there. That is a big cat. Did you see?
Yeah, I know. It keeps.
How they thought?
Yes.
Okay.
Simba keeps jumping up on me, and I might have to have him put in another room or something.
Yeah, if you got 5 minutes right now before we come back. So if you need to do anything right now, would be definitely
okay. 5 minutes.
Yep, 5 minutes, and I'll take you off screen until you come back.
Okay, it won't take me.
All right, guys, fantastic stuff going on. Truth Wave Energy, thanks for coming in. Poncho Zort, appreciate you coming on in as well. We got Presidential Zaddy in the building, who had an awesome UFO catch the other day that he showed on my channel, Social Dig, which you should go subscribe to, youtube.com/@Mr. Rob G, the same way it shows right here on the screen, right here, youtube.com/@Mr. Rob G. Who else has come on in? We have, we got Poncho Zork. We got Jerry Carter in the building. Hey, Jerry Carter, thanks for coming on in. We got the Lone Wanderers Bunker. Space Out Radio, I'm sorry. That man was all, yeah. For sure. That's an awesome comment, Lone Wanderers Bunker. Very much appreciated. Thanks for showing compassion, having a heart out there. And let me see who else has come on in. Amanda, I did get your comment here. I'll let Julie know for sure. Let's see who else is here. Hypersonic is in the building. Hey, Hypersonic. Appreciate you coming in. Who else do we got here? Just want to make sure we didn't miss anyone coming in. Jason Pate. I'm going to think it's Pate. Tell me if I'm right. Appreciate you coming on in, Jason. Cody Eiler. Appreciate you coming on in here tonight. Okay, let's keep moving back here. Who else do we got here? Who else is here? I think maybe there's the guy, Drew Banky. Currently on a family move, not here tonight, but he will be back for sure. Appreciate you showing up to the show, though, Drew Banky. Who else do we have here? Simply Coco. Hey, Simply Coco. Thanks for coming on in tonight. Thanks for showing up to the show. Who else do we have? I did say, well, we'll say it again. Hi, Miss Mary. Thanks for showing up here tonight. And I think that means we're current because I see some of the stuff we already covered. Pat Fisher, thanks for coming on in. Saying hello, Rob, and everyone. Also, Zanos. Hey, all sup. And Amanda's Crazy Life channel. I'm going to let Julie know this right now because she is still right here. She is back. Julie is very beautiful, says Amanda's Crazy Life channel. And also, she wanted you to know as well that her mother saw the same thing when she was 7 in Hemet, California, just so you know. Awesome stuff. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. You were muted. Now you're not. Go ahead. And, what did you just say?
I said, thank you for saying I'm very beautiful. I appreciate that. And that it's very interesting that your mother experienced the same thing. I would like to talk to, is it Mary, more about that?
Amanda, yeah. I'll make sure you guys get linked up for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Laura Lee Seaton, thanks for coming on in. Seeing Rob G, hello right back to you, Laura Lee. And yeah, guys, it's about to get better. If you thought the first 30 minutes was great, it's about to get very interesting. So make sure you don't go anywhere. And then also make sure you tell somebody that the show is on. Go get someone, share the show. This is your time right now. Also, what you could do, since we have about a minute, take the time real quick, if you don't mind. This will be great. Just take a minute. Look right under the video. You'll see like a thumbs up button. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Let us know you like the video. That way it gets out there into the YouTube sphere and kind of does something to the algorithm. That's kind of what they say it does. And we want to make sure the show gets out to as many people as possible because I think we're touching some very important stuff here tonight. So Definitely would love to see that and appreciate you guys ahead of time for doing that. The Goblin just came in. Thanks for coming on in, the Goblin. And okay, and we're coming back in about 30 seconds here. And then so you recall where you were at, Julie. You were talking about at the point where your mother's taking advantage of and kind of picking up from there. And so we'll be coming back here in about 20
Yes, my poor mother.
Oh, give it one.
Oh.
We're not back. We'll be back in 20 seconds.
Okay.
All right, guys. We are almost back here from the radio break. And also make sure questions, put them in all caps so I see them. I'll save them and ask them to Julie in hour 2. Here we go. All right, everybody. Welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. After hour number 1. Back half of after hour number 1, we have our fantastic guest here, Julie Ohlson, sharing her experience. She's an author. She's an experiencer. And we're talking about UFO encounters and trauma, where do the lines intersect. It's going to get interesting, guys. Make sure if you miss any of the conversation, jump in the archives because they're free, 100% free, youtube.com/@spacedoutradio. So, Julie, I know right before the break, you were getting into the story. I know you know where you left off. If you can go ahead and pick the story right back up, and we'll continue on.
Okay, so I believe I was probably about 11, 12, somewhere around there, and we moved to a bigger house, just literally down the road about 2 blocks on Killarney Street. And it was an old VA home. It was over 100 years old, and it had the big cement flagpole out in the middle of the yard and all that. But the trauma still followed me. Rollin still, he knew I wasn't his daughter. I'm getting older. The abuse is now getting more frequent. His alcoholism he's got cirrhosis of the liver now. So he passed away at age 66. So he just had it in for me. He, like I said, he'd always say, "You're no daughter of mine." Can you imagine being brought up and you're never told you're loved? You're never picked up. You have a dad, and he's a dad to my other siblings, but I can't talk to him. I can't conversate with him. I'm afraid to be around him. I would always just keep myself guarded. And to this day, I'm still in fight or flight because I just get so nervous around him. And but when he would work, he was a foreman for a construction company. And when he would go out of town, he'd be gone for like a week, sometimes just 3 days. But then when he would come home, my mother would be like, "Oh my God, Julie, Rollin's home. I couldn't be in the same house with Rollin because he would pick on me and beat me and all that. But I would have to, when he would pull up in the driveway and come up the hill, and this would be on a school night or whatever, and I'm a young girl, I had a little paper bag, just a little paper bag. I had some clothes in there and a toothbrush. Half the time I forgot my backpack for school, and I would just have to run out the door and go try to find a neighbor's house to sleep at. And I can't say all the neighbors that I had to go. I can't say their last names, but I would go up the hill to, I'll say Kathy's, or go over to Chris's, or go over to Linda's, and can I sleep here? I can't go home. And, I'd have to go to school. So, but I didn't have the clean clothes or anything like that. And I missed a lot of school. But what I'm going to go in reverse here a little bit. When Rollin would come home and I would be sleeping, he would grab me out of the bed and he would throw me outside, rain, sleet, or snow, and I wouldn't have socks on, shoes on, a jacket, or any of that. And I would have to go to my safe spot, which was underneath the street light. So our house was on a little hill, and down below there was a little street light. And then we kind of butted up to Washington Lake, the backwaters of this lake. And then in front of us was a pond. And I was down in a valley. So it was like a real valley with hills around us. So My mother couldn't come out and help me or give me shoes or anything. He would lock her in the house. And so she would call her sister that lived in Maplewood, which was about a half hour away from her, Bob and Clarine, my aunt and uncle, and say, Roland threw Julie out of the house again. Can you come and get her? So they would get in their car at 1, 2, midnight, 1, it didn't matter. And I would sit under the street light, just shivering. And then they would pull up with their station wagon and bring me to their house. And this was frequent. This happened a lot. And so that, to live like that, no one should ever have to live like that. And again, my mother, he targeted her because, and he wasn't even that great dad to my other siblings, but because I was not his daughter, and he knew, I don't know what he knew, if my mother was taken advantage of, or I don't know. I never knew that between them, like what he knew about, the pregnancy with me, but he knew something. But my mother kept this dark secret to me and to everybody else. So, and my mother, I believe her, that she was taken advantage of, and I'm here, but you know what? I'm here for a reason. I got a good life and good kids and a good husband. And, I don't hold her. I love my mother unconditionally. She's passed away now. She passed away in 2018, but I never held her accountable. I never put her down, even though I suffered the same dehumanizing abuse that she had to, because Roland did the same abuse to her that he did to me. So we were both his target. So this is where I had my experience. Can you imagine? So underneath the streetlight was my safe place. And I always said I would sit under there, under the blanket of stars, and I would look up and I would just say, God, or anyone that's out there, I just, I would kind of like plead with the stars. I mean, the universe, like I always needed somebody to help me or rescue me. And I'd always pray for, my mom, because I couldn't handle the way my mom was treated. And that's when I had the encounter. So all those years being underneath that streetlight, that's when,
and as you go into that, I just want to stop real quick, because I definitely just want to just share some empathy here, because I definitely hate that you had to go through that as a child. No child should have to deal with things like that. I know people who have gone through things like that, and I know there's people out there who literally might at this moment be going through exactly what you're talking about. And I also wanted to point out the trauma, when you go through a trauma, it at the moment it seems like you're in this low point, but as you talked about, you have had a successful life since then, and you've shown perseverance. So it's going to for you to be able to demonstrate how you actually did that. And that's what we're going to be talking about here. And to kind of also circle back around to that safe place that you talked about, which is what you ended up putting as your book cover, right? And I'll bring that up for everybody to see, because I think that it's very impactful, and I think that means a lot. So this is Julie's book here, Dark Secrets and Hidden Lies, the 1982 Willerny UFO case. And that what you see on the book cover is the safe spot that she is depicting. If you wouldn't mind talking to that and kind of going into the experience.
Yeah, and it looks a little bright on the picture there, but it's okay. So you see that person there, that's portraying me with my head down on my knees, waiting to be rescued from my aunt and uncle. And under the streetlight. And that's where I would sit. That was my safe place. And eventually, my parents ended up, my mom, she yelled out one night out the window. She said, Julie, I'm going to divorce Roland. She said, this isn't going to happen anymore, because she could not come out and help me. And so they filed for divorce, and Roland had about a week to live in the house. And I'll never forget this, February 10th of 1982, I was 18 years old. And my sisters were not home that night. I never had a bedroom. I had to sleep out in the hallway. I had a bed out in the hallway. My sisters had a bedroom. And my brothers had a bedroom, but I didn't. I had to sleep out. I never had a dresser. I'm not going to get into all that. But anyway, so my mother and I we went up to bed about 10:30, and she's not going to sleep with Roland because they're getting divorced. And he was still down on the couch. And my mother and I were up in the bedroom, and there was so the bed was up against the wall. And then there was 2 windows facing the east side, like facing out where the street light is. And so it's about midnight now. And, like if somebody would come into the bedroom and turn on a light, because when Mom and I were sleeping, and neither one of us were facing the window. My back was towards the window, and so was hers. So I thought somebody came in and turned on the light, and actually I thought it was Roland, and I was very scared. But when I opened up my eyes, the room was fluorescent green. It was this green it was so lit up. Can you imagine if we had cell phones back then?
Right.
But, I mean, it was just like, I just laid there, and I sat up, and I was like, and I looked out the window, and I'm like, because you think, is that a car light? But it's not a car light, just because of the incredible beam of this lime green piercing light. So I turned on the bed and I looked out the window, and then you can see the street light because it's down below right at the end of the yard. But if you would stack another pole on top of that street light, that's where this long lime green cigar-shaped light was hovering. It was literally just out there. And I'm like looking at it, and I'm like, I can't even believe what I'm looking at. I'm just, so now I'm kneeled on the bed, and I kind of nudged I didn't even say anything to my mother. I kind of did like a little nudge to her shoulder. And then my mom woke up, and she could tell too, and I could hear mumbling stuff. And she walked around, she got to the foot of the bed, and she's looking out the window. And I put this in, this was in the paper too. But the first thing my mother said, she goes, "Oh my God, Julie, it's the second coming of the Lord," because it was what is something like that you see? It is that mind blowing. And it was just so majestic, so beautiful, scary. There was just so many things that are just going through your mind, and we're just staring at this, and then, as we're staring at it, then it dropped down. So now it's below the street light. It's about 6-7 feet off the ground. And we're watching this, like, it kind of did like a little bit of a bounce. And I'm thinking there's something wrong with, I didn't know, because it did this, and it went down below the street light. And Mom and I are looking out the window, and we're just like, we're not even talking to each other. We're just like, and then, Rob, this is when it gets crazy. It lifts, it shoots straight up in the air. And as it shot up in the air, it shot down, I'm not kidding you, fireballs. They came out like out of the sides. So it's like this, but they came out of the sides, and with these tails and these flames. And in the pictures back then, we used to get a lot of snow in Minnesota, and we had 2 feet of snow. We did. And when the plow trucks would go by, they would make the embankments higher and higher and higher, because they had to push the snow somewhere. And so as this is shooting out those flames down, half a dozen, then it lifts, and it took off, like it just was gone. And it went to the right at like a 80-degree angle. 1, 2, 3, it's gone. So we're looking down, and we can see all these embers. You got the white snow, you got the street light, and you can see all these embers burning, in our yard, in the snowbanks, and they were spread out wide. Oh, and I didn't tell you how long the cigar-shaped craft was. It was about 40 to 50 feet long, maybe even a little bit longer, but it was thin, and you couldn't see inside of it. There was nothing shiny, nothing metallic. It was a solid green light. But how can flames come out of that? And by the way, there's many witnesses. I even have one from Angie Folletti that's in my book, and she worked for the Ramsey County Attorney's Office, and I got a hold of her years ago, when I was writing my book. And I said, would you be willing to put what you've seen in my book? And she did. So, and a lot of neighbors seen it. It was, do you have the 2 documents where I was given that this was called in, and it actually has, like, UFO Cat had somebody reported it? I'm going to grab these real quick.
Yes.
Oh, you do?
I may have that. Let's see. Is it the blue document?
Yep. I'm just gonna grab this.
Okay.
I
All
got
right.
two.
So
I
awesome
got
stuff there. And as we know, there's the UFOs that have been rumored to kind of shoot off some sort of metallic material. So this is definitely something that has happened within ufology in other cases. Go ahead, Julie.
And Rob, as it lifted, I mean, you're talking even above the treetops. You could see the silhouette of all the treetops. It was like almost like there was a fire. We thought that the woods were going to be on fire because it was so bright. And where were these flames going? You know, like this way and that way. And you could just see the whole silhouette of the trees. It's night, it's winter, and you could see all of that. It just lit up the sky. It was crazy. And as soon as those embers came down, you know, and that craft left, you were just blown away. You were just, and my mother said it again. She said, "Oh my God, it's the second coming of the Lord." And I'm like, I didn't know what to think. And we could hear Rollin downstairs because remember I told you he was laying on the couch. He slept down on the couch. And as mom and I are watching this upstairs, my Rollin is saying, "June, get down here. There's a UFO out there." And he was screaming for my mom. He was saying, "June, get down here." Little does he know, mom and I are watching this out, you know, right above him upstairs, out those, you know, out the bedroom windows. So it was really intense. And it was like, you know how we like when the sky has lightning,
Yes.
it's like that, but it stayed like that from all the flames. These flames weren't just like little flames; they were huge, and they had a ball on them with the tail, like if they just came down like, shoo, shoo. And just like I said, we thought there was going to be a fire,
And
and but we had the snow, so
and then you went outside right afterwards, or
I
when did you go
how
out?
we yes how we heated our house was Rollin was, he always kept the heat down real low, and we had 2 wood stove fireplaces. So we heated our house with wood. We
Mhm.
always had 2 fires going, you know, like all the time. So I grabbed a shovel from the fireplace and I tried to get out the door in my nightgown. And yeah, I was scared, but I wanted to get out there. But he said, "Get back here. They could be radioactive." So I didn't get to really, you know.
Yeah.
So then we didn't go to bed. My mom called her sisters. We called the police. We called the neighbors were over. I mean, it was just we were just blown away with what just happened. Like, what was that? And I knew, I said, that was a UFO. That was not from this earth. I mean, and you know, maybe it was that government, you know, now that I think back, who knows? We just don't know. But how can something like that happen? And how can that craft be gone within a blink of an eye? Just, you know, like just gone. So it was pretty intense, but when it and Rollin did have to leave in the morning for work because I told you it was a oh God, what did he do again? He was I don't really care what he did, but he was a foreman for Lake Area Utilities. So he had to leave for work early. But my mom and I went out in the morning, and when it was just getting light, and do you have that picture where we have the
Yes.
shovels?
Yes, and
Yes,
actually, I kind of wanted to set that up
sure.
because I just wanted to point out the fact that even at this point, you are saying could be governmental, could
Mhm.
likely though extraterrestrial, especially the way you explain it. And then we're talking about 1982, and I just personally don't feel that our government was that far advanced to have something like that back then. Just
I'm
my
with you.
opinion, but
My
here's the photo that was taken, and it's also awesome because we won't be able to show this part, but Julie has extensive records of this incident. This isn't just a recalling of an incident. She has all the data, all the paperwork, everything from the event 40 years ago plus. And I just think that's awesome. I wanted to point that out. But here's the photo right as the event took place or right afterwards. So you can go ahead and speak to this.
That's me and my mother. That's our house in the background. And to the left of that is the street light. But you can see that one is undisturbed. And that's what melted into the snow. And you can see all the ash around it. And that was in the front page of the paper.
Okay.
And yep, that's
This is
my mother's shoe, the tip of her shoe. And that's one that wasn't disturbed also. And you can see all the ash around there. And I mean, this was just crazy. These things were so hot, and some of them burned down. You remember, this snow was compacted because the plow would come by, and it was like so concrete. And these embers or artifacts burned holes deep into the snow, and they were very ashy. And I hold those pieces today. And these are, so back then we didn't have like the colored film. We had Polaroid cameras.
Yes.
So those are two other pictures. Yep. Original pictures, melted debris that was left behind after sighting that melted into the snow.
And then
These are actual pictures from 1982.
And I think that is actually pretty awesome here as we document that. And once again, this is obviously well procured data. And is this the second one or the same one?
I believe that might be the same one, but just pulled back a little bit more from what I recall.
All right. So we'll bring this one back up. So can you explain what this is? So the dark spot is what exactly? And then what's around it? And
there's a lot of ash. These came out with such force, and it was almost like you were being like bombed by these fireballs because they just came. I'm like, still to this day, I can't even comprehend how a light, but you could make out the light. It was definitely a craft. It was, cigar shaped, but how did those fireballs, and those came from underneath, and they didn't come straight down. They came down at an angle, like off to the sides. So it was just, they were in our yard across the street. And I know there was more, but we had the pond in front of our house and the lake on the side of our house, the backwaters of the lake. And in that pond, there was a lot of those cocktails, pussy willows or whatever they are. And there were so many of them. Like I did try to walk in there to look like through, and look in the woods and stuff, but I think this would have gotten a lot of attention had this happened today, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. We're talking 45 years ago now. And also the University of Minnesota came out to our house, and we gave them an artifact, and they brought it to the U of M. This is in the paper. It's all documented. They brought it to the University of Minnesota, and they could not analyze it there. They could not figure out what it was. So it says it right in the paper, they sent that artifact off to CUFOS, which was the Center for UFO Studies in Chicago, Illinois. And then we also had, when the road was roped off the next day, then I was just reading the girl's thing on the bottom. I can't let that bother me. the chats. But anyway, an investigator came out to our house, and his name was Robert Engberg, and he worked for CUFOS, and he also worked for MUFON. So we gave him an artifact too, and he was going to have that tested. So my mother was not college educated. She was just, a mother that raised 6 kids, and she didn't work. She raised her kids, and we trusted the University of Minnesota with the artifact. We trusted the investigator, Robert Engberg, and tick-tock, days, weeks, months go by, and we don't hear anything at all. We're like, what happened? Where's our artifacts? What's going on? And so we just kind of like, okay, what do we do? There was nothing we could really do. So,
and actually, let me get you stop right there, because we actually have about 30 seconds before we go into break. And I kind of want to just tease this. And you're doing awesome tonight, Julie. Just want you to know that. And this story is going to go into some name drops, right? So we have the event, we have the material. We don't know if it's government or extraterrestrial. We want to have it looked at, which is what Julie does next. There are some important names that come up too as well. UFO researchers, very well known in the space. You have to wait till after the break, find out who those people are, and also who may have actually written the foreword for Julie's book. So guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this break. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show. Right back.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G. on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, Julie, great stuff. We're off camera for the next 5 minutes, so I'll see you back here in a few minutes.
Okay, I wanted to show you, these. Can you still hear me, Rob?
Yep, I'll show those, but we have to start the commercial right now.
No problem.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show, after hour number 2. And we're going to be starting back here in just a moment. I'll bring our guests right back up on stage here, Julie Ohlson, who's been fantastic so far. We are coming back from radio here in about 15 seconds, guys. Also, this is the hour for your questions, so please post them in all caps. That way we can pose those to Julie at the back half of this hour. Guys, 5 seconds. Let's get ready to go. All right. Actually, it'll be about 10 more seconds. We just had a technical difficulty. And if you guys haven't already, please make sure you get the troll out of the chat, please. That would be really awesome. Here we go. All right, everybody. Welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show, after hour number 2. We are back with experiencer, author Julie Ohlson, getting into some UFO encounters and trauma. Where do the lines intersect? Guys, it's been fantastic conversation thus far. If you missed any of it, please jump in the archive. Absolutely free. YouTube.com/@spacedoutradio. As we get ready to jump right back on into the conversation with Julie. Julie, we left off at the end of the hour. You were talking about the fragments or the debris that fell off of this, what we'll call UFO, because who knows what it was. And you actually sent it, where you were talking about contacting universities to have it looked at. If you wouldn't mind picking up from there, that'd be awesome.
Yes, the University of Minnesota, we contacted them. They came to our house. We gave them an artifact, and they took it back to the U to have it analyzed. And in their report, in the paper, I don't know if you have that, but I could probably read that to you. They couldn't analyze it there. They could not find out what it was. So they sent it off to CUFOS, which is the Center for UFO Studies in Chicago, Illinois. And they told us, where they sent it, but we didn't hear anything back from CUFOS. And my mom and I were like, what's CUFOS? What's all this? And we didn't have a phone number or anything. And Rob, I have to show you this because my mother was a stickler. Back then, this was March 1st of 1982. And we used to have a phone company called Northwestern Bell.
Wow.
And
yeah.
my mom saved the Northwestern Bell, dated March 1st of 1982, searching for the report of whatever became of the full intact ring. Where was it? What happened to the piece we never got back? She actually saved her bill when she called them. Wow. Right here yes. So we put that in the photo book too. So we just never heard back. And it was just really getting sad because Robert Engberg gave us a phone number and we called that number. He's not on the other end of that line. The University of Minnesota said, well, we sent it off to CUFOS, so you're going to have to deal with them. No one ever contacted us. So this was pretty, it was such a bizarre, incredible, majestic story. And we were just left, we just felt like taken advantage of, just like, okay, just ignore them too, So this is where it gets crazy. 40 years later, and I've got the letter, December 19th, 2019. I'm 50-something years old now. I get a letter in the mail from MUFON, and they want to know if I was the girl from 1982 that experienced this. And that's how this whole story 40 years later got rekindled. Because once I found out, when I got that letter and I contacted them and I was like, I met with them and I'm like, I'm so excited. They did the work and found out that I said, this is what happened. I had to tell them every little detail and show them everything I had. And so they do the investigation and they get a hold of CUFOS in Chicago, and it's closed down now, right? But they have some records. And they said, oh, we never got an artifact from the University of Minnesota, but we have the letter that your mother wrote to us March 1st of 1982. Because remember, this happened in February. So my mother, and she wasn't educated. I should read you this letter. And
Sure.
I think, yeah, I believe you even have a copy of
Let
it.
me see what it looks like, and I can, if you show me, I think I do have it right here. Actually, this is very interesting, guys. She sends the debris off to be tested. We're talking 1982.
Yes.
Supposedly it goes somewhere and then disappears for 40 years.
40 years. Yeah.
So we'll get into that. Yeah, show me the document. I definitely can bring that up.
Here it is. I'm gonna have to take it out of the paper. I have my mother's letter to Kupos, March of 1982. I know I should have had this. I thought I gave you this, Rob. I'm so sorry.
You probably did. You probably did.
Yeah, and I have a copy of it. Oh, I feel so unprepared right now.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You can go ahead and speak to it as you're looking for it.
And it's in such, because I have a copy of it, and it's such small handwriting. You know, because I made a copy of it and put it in the paper. And I might even have to, oh boy, my glasses. Oh. Well.
Don't worry about it. You can speak to it, the gist of it.
Well, she just writes in here. I'm going to look in this photo album. We could just keep talking. But anyway, so what happened is that they found out that it was nothing was ever sent there. That's what they said. And it was closed down, and they didn't have the artifact or anything. Here it is. This is better. It's the bigger one. Okay. To whom it may concern. Now, this is my mother writing to Kupos because we ended up getting the address. To whom it may concern, I thought you would be interested what happened to my daughter and I, February 10th, 1982. We were sleeping and were awakened to a bright light that was glowing lime green. We saw this thing ascending about 2 telephone poles high out in the street by the yard. It then ascended and the light went up. My mom was, not just, I'll just read it word for word. It then ascended and the light went up and it left and it shot fire from under it. The light from the thing, I can't read her handwriting. So it shot fire from under it. It shot from under it. My mom wrote that twice. The thing, and you tested it. I can't really. I'm gonna have to make this a little bit brighter. Here we go. This is better. Now I can have better lighting here. It left and it shot down fire from under it. This thing lasted about 8 seconds, and then 5 or so shot out onto the road, burning about 10 to 15 seconds. Everything happened so fast and then speeded away. I'm sending you a story from the White Bear Press that I took these pictures. It's under investigation by a UFO agent. The National Center has a piece of fragment we found after this thing left what was burned out into the road in front of our house. A lady gave me your address, but last night, and I said I would let you know about this. Her name was Sharon, whatever. She gave me your phone number. I have a piece in the safe that I won't touch. I won't part with. The UFO agent has a piece. He said I could get it back. Let me see. Do I got the second part of this? Anyway, she closes up the story as God is my witness. Okay, here it is. If it was checked out, he held it for security reasons till after the investigation. His name is Robert Engberg. Other people got in contact with me that saw the same light on that night. We found about 4 pieces. One was broken into small pieces That's the one I have. I'm sending some copies of the story from the White Bear Press. I don't want to part with the other pieces I have. So had them made off at the library copy machine. If you want to contact me at 426-3857 in Willarney, what I'm telling you is the God's truth, Miss June Hansen. I don't have a right to know more about what the National Center has said about the pieces they got from me, and will I get it back when they are done with it? My mom's hand, it's so small. And so what is she's trying to say is to Kufos is like, where's our pieces that were sent to you? How come we don't have them back? And what in 2019, when I got this letter from Wuhan, they said, Julie, we don't have any document that your artifacts are tested, but we have this letter from your mother. And I'm like, oh my God, that's right. My mom, because remember, 40 years has passed. I forgot that on March 1st in 1982, my mother wrote a letter. And I actually have it in bigger handwriting, and I should have put that out. I thought I gave that to you, Rob. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
But it was hard to read that with her handwriting. So to make a long story short, we never got, we got the letter, and that just goes to show you my mother sent that letter. She wanted to know what was going on, and we just never heard from them anymore. And then I also, when we got the letter, I'm like, oh, Mom was smart. She put the guy's name on it, the investigator, Robert Engberg. So that's when I went into full board, and I searched for this guy for months and months and months. And I contacted him in June of 2021, and he lived in Mora, Minnesota, which wasn't that far from me. And I contacted him, and I told him, I said, I haven't seen you for 40 years. You came out to our house. You took he took a full intact artifact from us, and I never heard from you anymore. And I said, I'm in touch with Jacques Vallée and Paula Harris, and he knew who they were. He's like, what did you say? And he said, how do you know Paula Harris and Jacques Vallée? And I said, well, that's who I'm dealing with. And I said, I need to get that artifact back. Where is it? And so then he met with me at in Mora, Minnesota, at a little coffee shop. And he brought in the artifact. In fact, I'm going to grab it and release. So here you go. I got to show you this, Rob. This is the box he put it in when I was 18 years old.
Yep.
And
I have it right here because that has some information,
yes.
Personal information on it.
Yes, that was the box he put it in. I remember sitting at the kitchen table when he put the artifact in that box, and he took off with it. And he apologized to me, and he goes, Julie, I just wanted to keep it for myself, and I'm so sorry. And I talked with him. I met him there, and for about, we had breakfast and talked, and for like 3 hours. And when he put this box on the table in front of me, Rob, I'm not kidding you, my body went into shock. I was just shaking and quivering, because I'm like, here is something that I experienced when I'm 18 years old, and now I'm 53. And it's sitting before my very eyes. And so I have to take off the lid, the box lid, to see if it's really because I remember this. I know every detail about it. And sure enough, and I can't really tilt this, but it's in there.
Wow.
And I can take it out too and show it to you, but it's very delicate. But this is what came out of that craft. Would you guys like to see it, or do you think I should show it?
Yeah, definitely. And to kind of go back, this is what was depicted in the photo that we showed earlier here with her and her mother. This is the same object. Come back home 40 years later.
Yeah. And you know what? After Robert gave me this, he passed away within 2 months.
Wow.
So yes, and he was well known with MUFON and Kufos. He was an engineer, and he was a Christian. He was a very nice guy, and I actually became friends with him. So we actually, when I came home, he'd call me and we would talk for hours. And he did always say, Julie, I'm so sorry I did this to you and your mother. I mean, this guy was very apologetic, you know, and he actually had it stashed in his pole barn, you know. So but
That was awesome. In synchronicity, just the fact that he still had it after all the I've lost many things by moving and just for different reasons. For him to have your item 39 years later and then passes away a couple months after you get it back.
2 months.
Wow.
I know. It was like,
wow.
It came back to me. It was meant to be. So
Yes.
I don't touch it, but and we haven't.
Let me bring you up full screen here.
Okay.
Lift it up a little higher. Okay.
So it's round, and look at that, ashy. And I don't know if it's metallic. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's a metal. I don't know if it's not been tested yet. And you know how I tried to get this tested, and this piece here went to Stockholm, Sweden, and it made it through customs to a guy that was going to test it named Klaus Vaughn. But FedEx only did one attempted delivery, and I've got all the proof of that. And it got sent back to me. And what was really creepy about that is I thought I lost this forever because I sent it, you know, to Sweden, and it came back in a different box, but it was, you know, in a different package, but it's still the same artifact. But why they opened it up, and I also mailed him a book, and that came back too. And so Klaus wants me to come over there to Sweden to have it tested.
Wow.
So,
okay.
Sweden. Yeah. And I can.
Yeah, let me bring you back up here again.
Can you imagine how hot? I mean,
oh yeah.
I mean, look at that. And this is, I don't want to drop that.
You got to ask yourself,
yeah.
The object that you describe it coming off of just makes it compelling. I mean, it's obviously likely not something that humans have made. So it'd be nice to see what those results are. And maybe we can have you back to maybe share those results when you get them.
And Rob, I can't explain this either. And you have the pictures. It's growing some type of metallic, silvery. It's not mold. There's no smell. I think you have 3 pictures.
I have the pictures of the box, and it seems like
that's what I want you to show.
Yes. And so it is definitely having some sort of chemical reaction, whatever is happening here.
Yes.
And this is what Julie is talking about. Let me bring this up here.
And it's not a mold. I keep it in a very tight, secured glass, but I don't know. It doesn't have a mold smell, but it's growing some type of metallic. I don't know.
Have you ever had it tested for like radioactivity or?
No, and I should.
I would definitely do that just to kind of.
I know. And you know, I would never sell this. I mean, it's something my mother and I got to experience, you know, because the night when that happened, when my mother and I went up to bed, we were both crying because we knew that Roland and the divorce, I mean, he had to be out, you know, like by the end of that week. And it was a finality. And my mom and I, we actually hugged each other, and we were like, we don't have to suffer his abuse anymore. And to see this on that same night, the way that we were talking, and we were no longer going to be dehumanized and put down and talked down to, and then this happens under the streetlight where I was thrown out, and she couldn't rescue me because he locked the door, and you know, on her. I mean, it all, to me, I feel personally that was a connection, and I will always feel that way. My mother felt that way. We felt that was like the universe, the Lord, something like it's a finality. It's done. It's over. There's going to be no more pain. I was very close to my mother.
Yes, and you and your mother definitely are twins. And, you know, I know you lost her recently, 2018, and I definitely want to give my condolences there. You know, and I definitely have to ask, so this thing is out of, you don't know where it's at for 39 years. So during this time, do you and your mother ever sit down and have conversations about this, or even like question where is it at? Or does this ever come up over the 39 years?
Well, MUFON got a hold of me in 2021 or December. I just said that 2019. My mother had already passed in 2018, so they got a hold of me a year later. Mm-hmm. And my mother, of course, doesn't know I wrote a book and all that. And she would just be so, I mean, if she was still alive today, this would be, because this was something that she held near and dear to her heart. I mean, to see something like that, you don't, you know, were we picked? Were we, what was that? You know, to me, that was just amazing. Just, you can't even explain it.
I'll tell you, the mindset within ufology, there are a lot of people that believe that you are selected for whatever reason. And the fact that you had an encounter, you know, back at 8 years old, and then to have the experience, all this stuff, this, you know, coincidence goes out the window when we talk about the phenomena. And, you know, here's the thing, you know, and some people say this could be your mother facilitating you getting this back, and all these things chaining the chain of events that happen right afterwards. I wouldn't put that past
My
being
mother was like that too. Can I just read one thing?
Yes.
When one experience, I wrote this, when one experiences what we did, it stays with you for life. You have the sense, you almost feel chosen or unique to be able to not only witness what we did, but to have artifacts in your possession of this phenomenon. Was this predestined or a sign of some sort? Because that's how I felt, and that's how my mother felt. And the timing of it all, the you know, being tossed out under the streetlight, and, you know, my safe place, and that's under the blanket of the stars. That was my safe place. And even though Roland did what he did, and that light coming down, that whole thing happening on that night when my mother and I were up in that bedroom, and she's, you know, pretty much divorced, and Roland's got to go. It was finality. It was closure. We were like so relieved. And then just because we went to bed about that night about 10:30, and this happens at midnight. I mean, just the timing of all of it, we both felt that there is somebody watching. My mom always said, God. I believe that too. I just know, because, you know, like in Genesis 1:1, God says, you know, he created the heavens with an S and the earth.
Yeah.
So who are we to know what is out in that universe? You know what I mean? All his creation. So I'm not going to, you know, question it.
Yeah.
Because
I totally agree with you on that.
The heavens and the earth. So, yeah. So it's just a huge story.
Here's the thing. Here's also the thing. The wild part about it is there's still more story to go. There's still more story to tell. There's still another chapter to this that you may even have to write a second book for, which is probably going to be likely once we find out what this is. Because based off what you saw, it's 90% going to be some exotic thing that you have here. If that came, and when you came to it, it was piping hot. So you know it was from the object that you saw. So there's a lot of things that are pointing towards this not being something that's terrestrial. And I can't wait to see where this goes. We have about 45 seconds here before we go to break, if you wanted to add anything to that.
Well, think about those fireballs that were shot out. Was that the leftover? I mean, from those, just that impact, was that something in that fireball that left that residue, you know, that left those artifacts like that? It just, you just, your mind just keeps thinking and rolling. So.
And what I'll say, because I was saying earlier, there are many UFO cases where there was this metallic material that was discharged from UFOs. There are numerous accounts of that. So your story aligns with a lot of other stories, that part of it alone. And then the exotic thing that you saw is really going to lean into this being something likely not from here. So what I'll say is, and someone out there saying, Julie, she is with you. So, and I feel that too. I definitely feel that there's some love and definitely more than just coincidence going on here. So what we'll do, we're going to actually go into the last break of the night. It's already almost over here with a fantastic guest, Julie Ohlson, sharing her story. And I think it's awesome that you opened yourself up tonight. Guys, make sure you get some really good questions ready for Julie. And we'll be right back right after the break. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. See you guys back here in 5 minutes.
Rob?
All right, we are clear. And you were saying, Julie?
My mother's letters in my book. I could have just opened up my book.
Yeah.
Will you tell
That,
the audience that I should have
that
just
is
opened
okay.
up?
No, they can still see you and hear you right now, so they know that it's in the book here.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that because my mind is going all over the place, So
No, and you're doing very well. To
thank
really
you.
great tonight. This has been, I think, laid out the best way possible. I think you'll be definitely proud of what you've done here tonight. And these questions that are coming from the audience are known to be awesome. So, guys, make sure that you don't make me a liar here and put some great questions out here for the guest. I know a couple of them have you have put a couple out and I tagged them, and we will be asking those, but put them in all caps if you can. That way I can see them, and we will present those to Julie. Also, new names. Brooke Michelle. Hey, Brooke Michelle. Thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you showing up here tonight to the show. And this is usually where I get to talk about. Also, let me say Kevin Kennedy, TMI. I saw you out there. Let me bring you up here. And Delilah. I'm sorry, I didn't say your name, Delilah. Hey, Delilah. Thanks for coming on in. But you guys are coming in tonight on the After Hours radio show. So we do this show Saturdays and Sundays, 8 p.m. Pacific until 11 p.m. We also have on this channel Saturdays. So earlier today, Dirty Filth with Cryptid Cartoons. He airs at 2 p.m., draws some really cool characters, and he'll actually be here with us tomorrow during tomorrow's show. So that should be awesome. Make sure you're here for that. We also have UFO Max with Grantavius Max and Lee Strauss on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Pacific. We also have on Fridays Element 115, that's Lee Strauss and Tim James. And Monday through Friday, Dave Scott, 9 p.m. Pacific until midnight. So essentially, what I'm trying to say is 7 days a week, you could come right here and find something fantastic going on. We would appreciate your subscription. And for today's video, definitely hit the like button. Let us know how you appreciate the show. Or if you didn't appreciate it, we'll take that too. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Let us know how you feel. Just participate, and we would appreciate that. We have about 2.5 minutes left here before we come back. And let me see here. Bob Gray as well. Hey, Bob Gray. Thanks for coming on in. Thanks for showing up. Kaz or KAS. Appreciate you. He says, I bet aliens can dance better than us. LOL. Maybe they can. Who knows? What does alien music even sound like? Do they have music? Do they have rhythm? Or can they do it? Can they snap the fingers? Can they do any of that stuff? I don't know, KAS. To be determined. To be determined. Maybe we'll find out before we all go to the other side. Hopefully we do. Hopefully we get to see it. Lisa Bombach, thanks for coming on in. Saying awesome job, Julie. All right. And let's see. Parker Lee saying, hey, you can take that debris and make a fancy bracelet out of it. Now, we need to get that tested. Definitely, probably not from Earth. And if that's the case, it's probably a gazillion-dollar bracelet at that point. Let me see here. Let's see. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, Kitty Catty Whack saying, I'm thinking that they must know something about the material properties because, in my opinion, if it was something that was worth a lot of money, it would not have made it back to her. Yeah, maybe, or if they even had a chance to look at it. You just never know. You never know what actually happened. They could have sat on it on a shelf, forgot about it, never got to it, and you never know. Let's see. Parker Lee is being silly, saying, taste it. Nah, not going to do that. That probably wouldn't be wise, Parker Lee. Bob Thor saying, hey, if you send it out, I wouldn't trust FedEx with that. I'd be flying with it on my carry-on. Man, FedEx has lost a couple of my packages. I'm not going to lie.
FedEx here. Yeah.
Yeah, let me see. Hillbilly Herb's like, hey, nice not to lose a UFO part. Yeah. And then I know someone else was like, sometimes the stuff never comes back, which is true. which makes it more amazing that she gets it back 39 years later. But man, you just have to question, mate, is mother having something to do with that? It would just be something that I would think about often. And yeah, Corey is saying, excellent guest tonight, Spaced Out Radio. I thought so too. I knew it was going to be so. I said to Julie, Julie, this is going to be a fantastic show. Let's go ahead and do this. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great. She agreed. We're here. She's laid it out excellently. And I can agree with you, Corey. Excellent guest tonight. We got about 15 seconds left before we come back. And I will be asking questions, guys. All right, 10 seconds. All right, and here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show. After hour number 2, the back half of After Hour number 2. Already, it's almost over. 20-something minutes left with our guest, Julie Ohlson, experiencer and author. We're going to be talking about the book here in a moment. Also, if you missed any of the conversation tonight, jump in the archives, absolutely free, youtube.com/@spacedoutradio. As we get ready to get into some of your questions here, I do want to have you talk about the book here, Julie. So all this happens, you get the material back after 40 years. How does the book come into play? What take us through that path?
So when I got the letter in 2019 from MUFON, then I did some digging and calling all over, trying to find CUFOs, who worked at CUFOs at that time. And then I got a name, the famous investigative journalist, Paula Harris. So then I got in contact with Paula, and she was wonderful, and we're still friends today. I spoke with Paula today, and she's the one that forwarded my book, and it says right on there, forwarded by Paula Harris. And she was very instrumental to me writing a book. She's like, Julie, you've got to take this whole story and you've got to write a book. I'm like, I have no computer skills. I mean, when we graduated in 1981, we didn't have computer class. That came in 1982. I can text on a phone and stuff, but I'm like, okay, so I had to go buy a computer. Oh, Rob, you got that picture up. So there's Paula. There's something very interesting about this picture. Steve LaPlume he works for the military, and he wrote a book, and she wanted me to meet Steve. So one night I'm sitting at home, and I get a picture, and she's like, Julie, this is, I'm with Steve LaPlume, and here he is. And she's at a UFO conference. And so I'm looking at this picture, and I'm like, what is that creature behind Paula and Steve LaPlume? It looks like the little guy I seen when I was 8 years old. Can you zoom in on that? I gave you another picture. And, yeah, there it is. And so I call Paula, and I'm like, Paula. And I took made a picture of what she sent, the picture of Steve LaPlume and her. And I said, there is a creature behind you guys. And she's like, what? And I showed her, and she's like, oh my gosh. So what is that, Rob? I mean, is that crazy?
Looks like that guy right there. Kind of looks like that guy.
I don't know why something like that would be in a picture. She just wanted me to see Steve LaPlume. And there, that little leprechaun, I call him, is right there. And she said, and Julie, we looked, there's nothing. There was an occult rack back there. There was nothing. There was nothing there at all that could have mimicked that. That is just crazy. It's got the dark eyes. Just like I told you, I saw those black eyes when I was 8 years old, and I made the contact. That face just gives me the shivers, it's like, there it is again. And like I said, they looked back there. There was nothing there that could have, it couldn't have been anything else. Like she said, not a coat rack, nothing. So, but getting back to my book, Paula was she's like, Julie, you've got to write this book. And so I was already journaling about I was actually going to try to publish a book on abuse and trauma and all that, because writing for me was very therapeutic. It was very healing. And so that's why I just incorporated the dark secrets in with the 1982 Willarney UFO case, because my stories do mirror and connect.
And I think it's an awesome mix. And where do the lines intersect is I think, man, you painted a great picture, and you serve both purposes here tonight. And I like I said, interesting to see who this helps. I know it's going to help some people out there. Just what you've the story that you told, a lot of people are going to resonate and align with what you had gone through. I even know people in my own life. A lot of things you said kind of really resonated with me. I'm just like, man, without divulging a lot of details, just a lot of things connected for me as well. So your book is definitely, I think people should go out there and get it. And I think it's definitely going to serve a purpose. But I definitely want to allow you to speak some more to that before we get to questions.
Sure. And, I'm just going to give it one little detail. Like this is, Rollin was just he was not a good, he was abused himself. But one time I came home from school, I was about 14, 15, and the bus let us off. And Rollin was drunk and he was home, and there was a fire in the yard, like a bonfire going, and my mom was on the deck, and I'm walking up the hill, and I'm like, that's unusual to see Rollin having a bonfire during the day. And my mom's like crying, and I'm like, Mom, what's wrong? And she's like, don't worry about it. I'll get you all new clothes. And I'm like, what do you mean? He took all my clothes and he burned them. He made a bonfire, and he said, in his drunken voice, I got a good bonfire going. And here he was burning my clothes. And that's the kind of things that he did to me. He just always wanted to like torture me with things. So it's just, I'm sure he's being judged for that today. So I forgave him. When he became terminally ill, my husband took me to the hospital, and I sat on his bed because he died of the lung cancer. And he was on oxygen, and I went in there and I said, Rollin, I didn't call him Dad. And I said, I'm sorry. I forgive you for everything. And I want you to know that I love you, and God loves you. And he took his oxygen mask off, and he scooted away from me in the bed. And he said, you're no daughter of mine. And to leave. Yeah, it was pretty harsh. And then he has my brother, who was the power of attorney, take him out of that hospital and put him into a different hospital in Maplewood, Minnesota, St. John's. And I was barred from going there to see him. My brother called me, and you stay away from Dad. I mean, it was like, are you kidding me? And while he was in the hospital and he was still alive, that's when I pleaded with my uncle and my brother, I want to get a DNA. I want to know if he's my biological father or not. Well, it came back that he was not my biological father. So then that was a whole nother, I drove home and I'm looking in the mirror like, my mother has got beautiful blue eyes. I have these dark brown eyes and olive skin. And I'm like, who is my father? Who's this? And I knew the story about her being taken advantage of. And I'm like, this person lives in me. It was just really it played with my mind, and I just had to learn to overcome it and just realize that I'm here, and I have a beautiful family myself, and I'm here for a reason, and just to live life. There's my daughters. Yep. Tina,
Beautiful
Sonia,
family.
Alicia, and Mama. Yep. That was a while ago, but I just
Hello, ladies. And,
yes.
Definitely awesome. It's an awesome story, just all the way around. And it's just, some people never get over the trauma. Some people just can't find the way to that light. And I think, your story here, and there's still more to tell. Maybe you should write that book you were talking about, because I think your life story is one, even outside of UFOs, is definitely something that's very important. And I think maybe, you should address those things and help people out there, because I know this would definitely help out. So beautiful family, beautiful, you're living in a great area too. You're right on a lake. And which is I'm jealous, because I'm a fisherman, and I'd be out there every single day with a fishing pole. So this is kind of what I like to do. But beautiful life, beautiful family, and all that stuff is behind you. And I think that's a great time for you to tell that story. And I have Amanda, who was the one who said earlier, beautiful Julie. she's first up. She was saying, Rob, tell her my mom. So, okay, we talked about that one. Okay, yes, Lone Wanderer. Okay, I'm sorry that man was awful, Julie. It's not your fault. Kitty Catty Whack. Has Julie's husband ever had any experiences, or any of your children?
No.
None of them? Okay. And Super Crazy Movie Geek, do you think the government has had UFO crash retrieval and reverse engineering programs for decades? If yes, do you think, well, answer the first question first, I guess. Are you even in tune with what's going on in the whole UFO community?
Am I?
Yeah, any of the things that have been going on lately?
I mean, I see the stuff on the news and this and that, so I really don't know. And I know where I live, it's beautiful. I mean, I butt up to George Washington State Forest, and you should see what I have on my cell phone, videos I have of some really interesting things. In fact, all my neighbors up here, they always say, Julie, have you seen your alien friends lately? Because I have some mind-blowing film that I've captured on my phone at night looking out at the stars. And I can share that with you sometime too, because they are incredible.
Yes.
So I do see things.
I definitely would love to have you continue your story here with us, and always definitely come back. So I guess then, okay, so you have some knowledge of what's going on lately. So what, in your opinion, do you think that the government has had UFO crash retrieval and reverse engineering programs? Do you think that's a thing? It
certainly could be possible. You know, nothing surprises me or would shock me at all these days. You know what I mean? Like, you just, and again, if this would have happened, this happened now, it's been 45 years. If this would have happened, 5 years to 20 years ago, I think it would have got a lot more of attention. And people just didn't talk like, oh, if you've seen a UFO, you were crazy, or you were, on some drugs or something. And the fact is that there's so many witnesses. And I just want to read this one thing that my cousin Jean Sandberg wrote. She said, personal histories of emotional devastations, which has opened universal doors. Very few people can share their story without condemnation. That's why very few have shared their experiences. Julie, there are millions of universes it would be, so there's, and do we have time to talk about the Ken Korsak, the journalist?
Yeah, we have about 10 more minutes left. Yeah, definitely dive into it.
One night I'm just on Google and I'm looking, my book is out there, and I'm going to see if anybody's talking about it. And I come across the best UFO book of 2022, Willerny. And I'm like, what is that? And a 1982 sensational UFO sighting in a small Minnesota town, the experiencer's life story makes for a gripping emotional read. And so Ken Korsak is a journalist, and he remembers this in 1982. He had a friend that lived by my mother's house on White Bear Lake, told him about the story, and he was a journalist then. And so, yes, right there. And he writes about all the synchronicities of me living in the little town of Willerny, and the leprechaun type guy I seen, and even my streets, that I lived on, the Killarney and Kindross. And we lived in a lime green, our house was lime green. Did I ever tell you that when I was little, that my first encounter? And we bought the house that way, but it was painted lime green. We had the most odd colored house. That in itself was crazy. But he just talks about, he even has pictures of Killarney Street, and the same time that this happened to me and my, our mother in 1982, it also happened on the same year in Ireland. And he talks about the whole story here, and it's really interesting. And actually, if I do write another book, I asked Ken if I could add this to my book, because the synchronicities, how he picks it apart, is just unbelievable. And he says, in 1982, I was a college student in the Mississippi River town of Winona, Minnesota, just 100 miles upriver in the city of Stillwater. Nearby is another Twin Cities suburban community called White Bear Lake. My college buddy, Rick, a Native American dude, was from the White Bear Lake, returned from a weekend visit home and told me about a fantastic UFO sighting near his hometown. It made the front page of the Wiper Lake newspaper. Knowing I was an addicted UFO buff, he thoughtfully brought me a copy of the paper. And then he says, I read the story with wonder. It was one of the best UFO accounts I had read in a long while. For me, it had the added excitement that it had happened, particularly next door near Stillwater, a town I visited often. In addition to leaving behind fragments of material and imprints on the ground, the Willerny UFO case is bolstered further by solid testimony from multiple witnesses. More than a half a dozen local residents saw the object from within their passing cars and their own nearby homes, including his friend. When they saw what they saw amazed them. It was a gigantic cigar-shaped UFO, brilliant lime green colored light. Some reported it as a cigar-shaped, while others saw a disc, which can look like a cigar when viewed on the edge, or viewed on edge. More than 4 people saw the UFO dropped a series of fireballs after it appeared to wobble. It took off, hovering over, or after coming as close as 6 feet above the ground. But he, just everything he writes in here, he says, and this story did not get enough attention. He said, this is the most incredible story. And that's why he named the title, the best UFO book of 2022. So I was really impressed by his writings and the synchronicities and what I seen at age 8 and just so much more. So the next book I do write, I'm going to put that in there. I think that'll be really beneficial to my book.
I can agree.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to ask you here, Super Crazy Movie Geek is saying, if you could talk to the aliens behind the experience that you had, what would you ask or say to them?
Were you truly watching out for me and my mother? Because I believe you were. That's what I would say. And I would thank them because I never had fear instilled in me. And, with my mother and I, when I was 18 and her going through that divorce and the finality, the timing of everything, and exactly where it came to the streetlight in my little town of Willerny, our house. I mean, why? There is just so many connections, and I still feel this way, and no one will ever say that I'm crazy. And I don't care actually what anybody says, because I got to experience something with my mother that I will cherish forever. And somebody could offer me $1 million for this, 10 million, whatever. I would not take it. I would not take a dime for what I experienced. This is mine. I would donate it to maybe to like a university or something, but I would want to be recognized for it. Maybe it's something I'll give to my grandchildren. I'm not sure, so it's just.
It's actually wild you said that, because one of the things that I wanted to make sure that I pointed out, and I did this ahead of time, I was going to tell you that at the end of the day, if you have this material tested and it's determined to be explainable, I said, I think that the bigger story is the experience you shared with your mother and the trauma that you overcame. And
Yes.
That's exactly what you said. And I'm just so glad that you did, because that is right on point. And
it is on point. Yes.
Let's see. Let me ask you this. Kim Jellin is asking you, is there a link between trauma and the experiences, do you think?
It is true. And I've talked to even Jacques Vallée. I've talked to some very impressive people that have a lot of knowledge. And it is so true. I've seen documentaries that they say that they do come to people that have gone through a lot of trauma. They're closer to those people. For what reason? I don't know. Is that a true fact? I believe it is. And I believe God has a part in it too. I mean, who knows? Maybe it is, the Almighty. And we just don't know.
Yeah.
And I have something I want to read to you really quick too, because I can close it with this. And
yes, definitely.
Yeah. What I got to experience, and I got teased at school, like, oh yeah, Julie was probably this or that. And her mom probably burnt some eggs and threw them outside. It was, I got ridiculed, whatever, but I'm like, I don't care. I don't care what people say. I know what we got to experience. I know what I seen at age 8, and I'm never I have this scripture, Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all
With
your
all
heart.
thy heart, lean not to thy own understanding. In
Understanding.
all thy ways acknowledge them, and he shall direct thy path. That's crazy, Julie. That is, let me tell you a story real quick. I got to tell you this because you brought that up. That is so amazing that you did. I was 11 years old, and I used to go to church with my grandmother, and they separate us for Bible study. And one weekend, they wanted us to come in and give script and tell a scripture. And I was not fully versed in the Bible. It was hard for me to keep up in church with the when the pastor's going through all these scriptures. So I asked, I said, grandmother, I need a scripture because they're going to want us to come into class and give one. And this is the one she gave me, Proverbs 3, verse 5-6. That's crazy, Julie. And I just wanted to say that. Come on. Oh my God. You're freaking me out here. You're freaking me out here. Oh my gosh. Oh,
and isn't that just a wonderful scripture? Because you know what? You can't lean on your own understanding because you don't. What was that? I can't explain it, but it happened. And that's what he means in that. Just don't, you can't say it's this or that. You just got to know that it happened and it's real. And I just feel so touched and blessed. I really do. I feel, and I have had blessings, and I have a good life, and there's so many more people worse off out there than what I experienced. You know what I mean? I'm an empath. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and my mother was the same way, and her identical twin, Jane. And I sure miss them, but I know where they are, and I know that they're safe, and I'm going to see them one day. But what I experienced was just I'm in trauma bond counseling today. I still stick with it because I need to have that outlet, because I have my highs and my lows, and I have my fight or flight. I can't take any type of neglect or just, I'm a very sensitive person. So I just stick with my counseling, and I stay in prayer, and I want everybody to know that I have nothing here to gain. My story it's incredible. It is true to the very truth in that word, TRUTH. And I am not looking for fame, fortune, money. I just wanted to share my story, and I'm happy that Rob reached out to me and invited me on a show. And I would like to even do another show with you, Rob, because I have a lot more to talk about, because you don't even know about the two men that came to my house looking for our artifacts.
I didn't put in
my book because this was my first book, and I was, amateur. And I mean, it was my first book, and I wasn't I didn't even think my book would be good enough. And I told Paula, and I told Desta, and I told Grant Cameron, and I told so many that I didn't put that part in there, but I have a lot more information now that I'm going to put in there. And they came into our house, they tape recorded us, each one of us in the room individually. They tape recorded Rollin, my mother, myself, all separate. And these are the things I should have put in the book. And I'm going to do that in my next book. So, but awesome. I can tell you more about that too. And they came in trench coats, and they came in just 2 days later, and they had those rubber boots they put on their shoes and their long coat. And they did. Two guys that knocked on our door. Yes.
We'll leave them there. We'll have to do a cliffhanger and make sure that they come back for the next show. We will do another one for sure, because it's been awesome, and I knew it would be. Kid, we got 20 seconds. Can you tell everybody where to find your book?
Yes, you can find my book. It's on Amazon. And 20 seconds. This book details the true story of two paranormal encounters the author experienced as a young girl. The author feels that the experience is connected to a deeper spiritual insights and reveals the truth related to a family's dark secret. A mother tries to protect her daughter from a hidden past she was too ashamed to confront while dealing with an abusive husband. The story tells the brutal truth in a heartbreakingly honest way.
Conversations that move the needle.
And we're at the break right now. Thank you, Julie, so much for coming in. We're going to do this again very soon.
Where you can own the
we'll be right back after this break.
Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, Julie, have to do a quick goodbye. We have to go to commercial. I will talk to you soon. Let's set up the next show.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Talk soon. You did excellent. Take care.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. right, everybody. Welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. We're in after hour number 3 as we get ready to come back from radio here in about 5 seconds here. Guys, go ahead and get ready. And here we go. All right, a few more seconds here, actually. All right, everybody, welcome back. Space Out Radio, after hour number 3 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. We're going to have a fantastic hour. We want to thank our guest, Julie Ohlson. Hours 1 and 2, fantastic story. UFOs and trauma. Where do the lines intersect, right? As we go ahead and get ready to get into some Steve Stockton Tales Untold Missing Person Mysteries. If you missed any of the show previously, hop in the archive, absolutely free. youtube.com/@spacedoutradio as we go ahead and get ready to jump into Steve Stockton Tales Untold Missing Person Mysteries. Once again, we appreciate Steve Stockton being part of the show. Here we go.
Welcome to Tales Untold and Missing Persons Mysteries on Spaced Out Radio's After Hours. My name is Steve Stockton, and I'm here to take you on a journey of mysteries, legends, and true stories. Come, join me on this strange adventure of Tales Untold and Missing Person Mysteries. Hello, friends. Steve Stockton here with you. I'm going to be talking about people who vanished while on the phone. Join me. Let's walk and see. First up, we have Angela Marie Hammond. On April 4, 1991, 20-year-old Angela Hammond was at a phone booth in Clinton, Missouri at around 11:45 p.m., talking to her fiancé, Rob Schaefer. The phone was located in a parking lot outside of the Food Barn store in the center of town near Jefferson and 2nd Streets. Angela had parked her car in order to make the phone call to Rob because she wanted to let him know that she was too tired to meet with him that night like they had planned and just wanted to go home, take a bath, and relax instead. The two lived together but had plans to meet somewhere after they both got out of work. While on the phone with him, she mentioned a mysterious pickup truck that had just started incessantly circling the booth she was in while she was talking to it. She became even more suspicious when the man driving the truck parked his car next to hers and got out, looking all around on the ground with some sort of light, as though he were trying to find something. Not knowing what was going to happen next, but having a bad feeling about the whole situation, Angela described both the man and his truck to her fiancé. She described the man as being filthy and bearded. Suddenly, Angela started screaming, and the line had gone completely dead. Rob was only a few blocks away and immediately threw the phone down, got into his own vehicle, and sped all the way to where Angela had been talking with him just moments earlier. On the way to the scene, though, he heard her scream and call out his name as he passed a truck that he noticed looked just like the one she had been describing to him before all hell broke loose. It was a late model 1960s or early 1970s green Ford F-150 truck. He followed the truck for about a mile down 2nd Street and Culvert Drive, but the very sudden shifting of gears broke down his vehicle's transmission, and his car stalled in the middle of the road as he helplessly watched the man drive away in the truck with his terrified fiancée inside. Angela was 4 months pregnant and was never seen or heard from again. Rob said that he had gotten a better look at the truck Angela had been taken into, and reported that it had a water decal or some sort of outdoor scene covering the whole back window, that it possibly had a white top and possible damage to the left front fender. Witnesses reported seeing a Caucasian male driving a similar-looking truck near the phone booth at the same time Angela disappeared. The man has never been identified, but was reportedly wearing overalls and a dark-colored baseball cap. He wore glasses and had a beard and mustache. A composite sketch was completed based on witness testimony, and though Rob was initially considered a suspect, he passed the polygraph test and was eventually ruled out. At the time of her disappearance, Angela worked in a bank and attended classes at Central Missouri State University in Warren, Missouri. Angela is a white female who had turned 53 years old on February 9, 2024, and was only 20 years old at the time of her disappearance. She was between 4 feet 11 and 5 feet tall and weighed between 120 and 140 pounds. She was wearing a white button-down shirt with black spots on it, black slacks, and white sneakers. In 1991, Angela's teeth were said to have been in excellent condition. Her nickname is Angie, and she has brown hair and brown eyes. She wears contact lenses and has a scar on her upper lip. Anyone with any information about this case should contact the investigating agency, the Clinton, Missouri Police Department, at 660-885-5561. Next up, Brandon Lawson. Brandon Mason Lawson was born on November 18, 1986, in Fort Worth, Texas, in the United States. His parents' names are Brad and Kimberly, and he has 3 siblings named Brittany, Kyle, and Billy. Brandon and his common-law wife, LaDessa, were high school sweethearts and had 3 children together. On the evening of August 8, 2013, 26-year-old Brandon had an argument with LaDessa at their home in San Angelo, Texas. And as per the agreement the two had made with one another, when things got too heated, one of them would leave and give both time to cool off, and that's just what Brandon did. Brandon called his father and explained the situation, saying he wanted to come and spend the night at his house. Brad, who lived 3 hours away, didn't think it was a good idea for him to drive so far away and tried to talk his son out of it. However, Brandon insisted, and they hung up with one another. Brandon left his house in his vehicle, a silver Ford F-150, at 11:54 p.m., but would never return home again. Brandon ran out of gas on his way to his dad's house, which was located in Crowley, Texas, and he pulled over on Route 277 between San Angelo and Bronte in Coke County. His brother, Kyle, only lived a mile away from his and LaDessa's house, and he asked him to bring him some gas so he could get back on the road. While talking to Kyle, Brandon claimed he was being chased by 3 men whom he later described as, quote, Mexicans in the neighborhood, end quote. Kyle wasn't sure he believed what Brandon was telling him, but didn't know why he would lie about such a thing either. Brandon had a history of drug abuse, but had been completely clean for about 6 months leading up to the night of his disappearance. However, Kyle asked him if he'd been using, thinking that maybe his brother was just hallucinating. Brandon denied being high, and after hanging up with his brother, Kyle called LaDessa and explained what was going on. She left a fuel container outside for Kyle and his girlfriend to pick up so they could put gas in it and bring it to Brandon. Kyle didn't have any money on him at the time, but planned to pick Brandon up, bring him to the gas station to get the fuel, and then drive him back to his truck so he could put enough gas in to get into the station with his truck to refuel it properly. They drove to the location Brandon had given them and saw his truck parked on the side of the road, but they didn't see Brandon anywhere. A sheriff's deputy, who had been contacted by a trucker, showed up a few minutes later to check the vehicle out. During another call between Brandon and Kyle, after Kyle had gotten to the truck and saw the officer there, Brandon told him, "I can see you. I'm right here." However, neither Kyle nor the deputy could see Brandon anywhere. When Brandon still hadn't shown up after several more minutes, Kyle thought it was possible that Brandon simply didn't want to have any contact with law enforcement because he had only recently learned that there was an outstanding warrant for his arrest. It was related to some drug charges issued to Brandon out of Johnson County years before in 2005. Many phone calls were made to and from Brandon's cell phone that night. The area had very poor cellular reception, so many of those calls either never went through or were dropped. It was at 12:30 a.m. that Brandon first called Kyle and told him he was out of gas. At 12:51, just after dialing 911, which we will discuss further in a moment, Brandon called Kyle's phone and left him a voicemail. Also at 12:51, Brandon called LaDessa, but she didn't pick up because her phone had been left in her car that night, which wasn't too unusual. At 12:52, Brandon called Audrey, Kyle's wife, and said, Audrey, I'm bleeding." Those are the last known words ever to be spoken by Brandon Lawson. At 12:54, Kyle called Brandon, but got no response. And at 12:57, Brandon called Kyle back. Then at 12:58, Brandon called one of his neighbors. And at 12:59, Kyle called Brandon again. However, none of these phone calls would last very long, and none of them got Brandon and his brother any closer to one another. At 1:04 in the morning, the 911 dispatcher called Brandon back and tried to get some more information, but he didn't pick up, and she left a voicemail. At 1:09, Brandon called Kyle 3 times in a row, and then at 1:15, called him twice more. Those are the final calls made from Brandon's phone. And from 119 on, all calls to Brandon's phone went directly to voicemail, and no calls were ever made from the phone after 1:15 a.m. call to Kyle. Brandon's 911 call became a huge subject of debate and the hottest topic of the case overall when it was finally released to the public, and the internet all but blew up with theories and speculation about what was being said and what could have happened to Brandon. It's incredibly hard to understand what's being said, possibly due to the poor cell service in the area. Here's one interpretation of several circulating online of the transcript of his original 911 call that night. Many people hear different things, and mostly what's being said has never definitely been determined, but many sources believe this is what most likely had been said that night. We have no opinion one way or another, but here's the interpretation. Operator, 911 emergency. Brandon. Yes, I'm in the middle of a field. If they could just bring some guys over. Right here, going towards Abilene on the Bronte side. My truck ran out of gas. There's one car here and guys chasing me into the woods. Please hurry. Operator. Okay, now run that by me one more. Brandon. I tried talking to him. I totally ran into them. Operator. You ran into him. Okay. Brandon. Just the first guy. In the background noise. Brandon. I got shot. Operator. Do you need an ambulance? Brandon. Yeah. No. I need the cops. Operator. Is anybody hurt? Strange noises in the background. Operator. Hello? 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 Brandon. Very faintly. Help me. Now, in a slowed down version of the call, many people believe there's another voice talking, saying, get up and protect yourself. But there's just never been anything definitive to point in the direction of what actually happened to Brandon Lawson that night. There's so much rumor and speculation surrounding this case, but if we're just sticking to the facts, the case is still open and unsolved. Brandon's family continued to search for him in the area through the morning, but they never found any evidence as to his whereabouts. Law enforcement initially presumed that Brandon might have been hiding and on the run because of an outstanding warrant, but most people didn't find that plausible, given that he called 911 himself and specifically requested the dispatch send the police to the station. Ledessa and the rest of Brandon's family tried to search as much of the area where his truck was last known to be, but their efforts were hampered by many landowners who refused to allow them to search their property. Not a single shred of evidence was ever found that would even suggest what might have happened to Brandon. In the days following the disappearance, law enforcement officials conducted their own small searches in the area, but never found a heat signature nor a body. The sheriff of Tom Green County, a man named Nick Hanna, who was the lead investigator and a Texas Ranger at the time, said he believed that Brandon's body was probably in the desolate desert area off US 277, which he said was largely inhabited by rattlesnakes and feral hogs. However, when they honed in on that section of the grid and focused their searches in Bronte, despite utilizing 2 DPS helicopters, ATVs, Hexasar, 6 cadaver dogs, and 4 different agencies, no trace of Brandon Lawson was ever found. It's a mystery that remains today, with the many interpretations of the 911 call being the prime focus of the whole situation, with people thinking if he were ever to be found, what was really being said in that phone call would be the key to it all. And next, Joanne Marie Peterson. Joanne Marie Peterson was born on May 17, 1972, and was 10 years old at the time of her disappearance on February 19, 1983. Joanne disappeared from an area near her home in Fraser Valley in British Columbia, Canada, after having an argument with her sister. The girls had been out for a walk and their parents weren't home. They had an argument and Joanne started to cry, and her sister threw out of the house. Joanne then walked to the penny pincher store that used to be near Vetter and Watson Roads in Sardis. She walked into the store and spoke to the clerk behind the counter before going outside to use the public payphone booth to make a call. Joanne called the operator to try and connect with her parents, and witnesses came forward reporting that they had seen a man inside the booth with her at the time. Joanne did manage to make contact with her mother during that call and asked her mother to come and pick her up. The man suddenly grabbed the receiver and told Joanne's mother that if she wasn't there within a half hour, he was going to call the police. Her mother made it there within 15 to 20 minutes, but Joanne was nowhere in sight. The case quickly went cold despite the best efforts of the RCMP and all the other agencies involved, and despite desperate pleas from Joanne's family for someone to come forward with Joanne or with news of what had happened to her. Her mother, Angela Riley, in a video released by the RCMP on February 19th, 2008, 25 years after the disappearance occurred, pleaded with the man who had been with her daughter by saying, "Please come forward. That would relieve me of so much grief. Please come forward. As a mother, I am pleading for you to come forward. Please do that for me." The case remained cold, but a break came 3 years later when a letter dated August 28, 2011 was hand-delivered to Chilliwack RCMP. Corporal Tommy Hollingsworth from the Upper Fraser Valley RCMP said in an interview a month later in September of 2011 that there's certain details, I guess, that only this person would know. Meaning, it had been the man who had been with Joanne when she disappeared who wrote the letter, though none of the contents of it has been released to the public. More conflicting information came when the investigators said that they had been written an anonymous letter that they knew to definitely be from the mysterious man in the dark coat, the man who had last been with a little girl before she disappeared back in 2008, and that they weren't 100% sure that he had written the 2011 letter after all. In 2023, just days before the 40th anniversary of Joanne's disappearance, Chilliwack RCMP announced that they had identified the man who had been in the phone booth with Joanne that fateful night. RCMP released this statement, quote, "Recently, police were able to identify this male and rule him out as a suspect. His identity will not be shared with the public at this time," end quote. Crime reporter John Daly, who's been following the case all along, said that it's perplexing to learn that the police had finally identified the man who was in the booth with the little girl, but that after all these years, they publicly stated that he wasn't a suspect or even a person of interest anymore. He goes on to say, "One can only wonder what they've told him and why it took so long to find him and why he didn't come forward earlier. Or have they discovered who he was, determined who he was, and he's dead? We don't know." Now, there are obviously more questions than answers in this case, more than ever before, but the Chilliwack RCMP say that they haven't ever given up hope that they will find out what happened to little Joanne and that they will never stop investigating this case until they have all the answers. John Daly said, "The police went to the wall to solve this case all those years ago, and it looks like they're prepared to go to the wall again." Anyone with any information into the disappearance of Joanne Marie Peterson should contact Constable P. Neitz from the Chilliwack RCMP Serious Crimes Unit at 604-792-4611, or to remain anonymous, you can call the Crime Stoppers Canada tip line at 1-800-222-8477. And another number you can call with information is that of the British Columbia RCMP at 788-290-3100.
All right. Tales Untold, Mr. Person Mystery, Steve Stockton. Once again, it is a pleasure to have him as a part of the After Hours radio show right here on Spaced Out Radio. Always some good stuff, but at the end of the day, you have to also remember, Eve is entertaining, maybe, I guess you could say entertaining. I don't even want to say that. These people are missing. A lot of these people have not been found or located, and definitely sad story. So just keep that in mind when you listen to these stories. But I'll tell you, Steve Stockton can read the back of a receipt and make it sound compelling. So once again, awesome stuff, Steve Stockton. Normally, we would be jumping right on into the After Hours wrap-up with Drew Banke, but Drew Banke is actually moving at the moment. So shout out to Drew Banke. I know he'll be back here next weekend. I do actually want to talk to some things here, as we had a great show earlier today. We had a great guest, I'll say. And the topic of the show, if you missed it, if you're coming in late, was UFO encounters and trauma. Where do the lines intersect? And I know a lot of people out there were touched by the story, and I know it resonated, because even if you yourself haven't experienced the type of trauma that she expressed here. I know that you know someone that has, and then also there's what's called UFO trauma, right? Just trauma as a result of your experience with the phenomena, just directly related. And I told Julie before the show, I said this is going to be something for sure that is going to resonate and is very important to happen here tonight. And by looking out in the crowd, I know that all of you, a lot of you, aligned and felt and had compassion for what was told tonight. I also told her as well, we have one of the best audiences out there, very supportive, very compassionate and caring audience out there. So shout out to you guys. Great questions as well. And you know, with that being said, there was a synchronicity, and I would have never guessed this. As she closed the show out, she talked about a scripture. And you know, if you guys have listened to me on this show, then you know I've talked. There's so many scriptures in the Bible. There's so many you could choose from. And she happens to bring up the one that is a main part of the story of why I even do this here today. So I thought I'd spend at least a minute or two before we go into this final break just talking about that. So just a brief summary here. So me as a host of this show, and I also have my own YouTube channel, shameless plug, youtube.com/@MrRobG, as it shows actually right there. Make sure you go over and subscribe as well. But yeah, I never jumped into this field to be a host, right? I jumped into this field when the realization was brought that UFOs and extraterrestrials are visiting this planet right now, in this very moment, today, yesterday, tomorrow. They're here now. When that hit me, I dove full into this field. I researched going all the way back. You know, I did all my research, brought myself up to speed on the subject. And kind of leading into this, that scripture, Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6, trust in the Lord with all thy heart, lean not to thine own understanding, in all thy ways acknowledge him, he shall direct thy path. As I told you earlier with Julie, how that scripture came into my life, I decided at some point in my adult life here to figure out what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do something, you know, that had an effect on humanity, and I just didn't know what it was. Initially wanted to be a kindergarten teacher. I said, you know what, let me go out here. I could talk to the youth of the world and kind of help maybe shape or mold them and get them ready to jump into the world. But that didn't work out because I was like, I don't know if I want to deal with someone else's children, right? So scrap that. And then I thought back on that scripture and I said, you know what? I'm just going to allow myself to be directed to where I should be. And I did that. I kind of just let go, allowed myself to be directed. I had bought this camera, actually the one I'm using right here, right now, about 5 or 6 years ago. You know, I thought about YouTube. I was like looking at the landscape, maybe travel vlogs or something like that. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. The camera sat stagnant for maybe 3-4 years, collecting dust. Expensive camera, $1,500 camera. And didn't know what I wanted to do, right? And then one day the opportunity opened up to kind of help someone on their show. And, you know, I decided to do that just out of the kindness. Like, hey, I could probably help this person. You know, didn't necessarily know where that was going to go. And then the humanity whole thing kind of came full circle for me. And I was like, you know what? This is an important issue to humanity. This is the angle that we should be taking with this. And that kind of broke me off into my own channel and then leading up to what we're doing here now today. So it was awesome for Julie to end that way because it actually, that scripture means a lot to me and the mission that I'm on right now for humanity. This is why I do this. And if you're part of my channel over there, then you know that I do this for the positive progression of humanity, not for stories, not for anything else, but trying to move the needle. That's what we're going to do as we get ready to go into the final break here tonight, right here on the Spaced Out Radio After Hours radio show. Normally my guy Drew Banky would be here, but he will be back next weekend. We're going to get into some interesting stuff right after the break. Don't go anywhere. All right, clear, crystal clear. Let me play you guys some music real quick. I need to do something. I'll be right back. All right, we are back. And let me go ahead and get ready to come back from radio break here. Appreciate everyone's support here. Also, Polly Rodiman, shout out to Polly Rodiman, says, good show, great show. Do appreciate your support. Great show, Robbie G. Thank you. Best wishes for Drew. Yeah, shout out to Drew. I know Drew was in here earlier. He might still be watching. So shout out to Drew Banky, and congratulations on the new place. Hope you and the family are getting in comfy, cozy. And yeah, definitely. Kitty Catty Whack was stating, Rob, absolutely love the special connection that you have with the show tonight. It's amazing. I can't say anything else. I had no clue that Julie was going to bring that tonight. And it was all meant to be. It was all meant to be tonight. And that's just what it is, right? Okay, we got about 5 seconds coming back from radio. And here we go. Boy. Okay, another technical difficulty, guys. Let me go ahead and make sure we're back on track here. Thinking about live shows, when you have those little hiccups, when technology doesn't want to do what it does, here we go. Right, everybody, welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. After hour number 3, the last 20 some odd minutes of the show here. We're going to be getting in some good stuff. I'm your host, Mr. Rob G. I hope you enjoyed the show today. We had a real awesome guest, Julie Ohlson, coming in, sharing her experiences, talking about trauma, the whole gamut. Make sure you jump in the archive if you missed any of it, because it's free and you can do that. YouTube.com/Spaced Out Radio. As we go ahead and get ready to kind of jump into a couple things I want to talk about. Now, I do have a channel, once again, shameless plug, youtube.com/Mr. Rob G. And about a week ago, I did a show where we talked about the new video that was released by Jeremy Corbell showing what appears to be a military release video showing a UFO kind of maneuvering through the clouds, right? And in a lot of cases, it was talked about that it was potentially avoiding being detected or seen. This was an image taken from above, from we don't know what, maybe a satellite, maybe some high altitude spy plane. We're not sure, but it did capture this thing on camera. So I'm going to read the article real quick, and then I'm going to go down a lane here, a topic that we actually covered over on the channel. So with that being said, let me go ahead and read this here to everyone. We have not Steve Stockton, but we do have this here. All right, which is essentially, for anyone who doesn't know, I'm going to go ahead and read the story on the flying saucer UFO and then go into why I'm even bringing this up at this point, right? So this article is from the 17th of June, and the article goes as follows. This is courtesy of dailymail.co UK, written by Alexa Simino for the Daily Mail. U.S. military personnel captured an eerie flying saucer UFO, an incredible new footage that has just been released to the public. Investigative journalists Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp say the video was recorded by government personnel over the Afghan-Pakistan border in November 2020. They released it to the public on Tuesday. It shows a massive disc weaving in and out of cloud cover. The Department of Defense labeled the disc a UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomena, and it looks markedly different to other tic-tac-shaped UFOs seen in recent military footage. The raw thermal imagery, along with 2 additional enhanced clips produced by the U.S. government, showed the unidentified craft abruptly changing direction, all without any visible signs of propulsion. Quote, this is the first time in history that military film footage of a disc-shaped UAP, designated as such by the military, has been captured on camera and released to the public, Corbell told dailymail.com. It has implications that are huge. The object was spotted during a reconnaissance mission by a high-altitude Air Force platform. According to internal government slides Corbell and Knapp have seen, the UAP was described as navigating through clouds and characterized as a disc. The military's own internal enhancements, now made public, further underline the object's unusual heat signature or lack thereof. You do not see plumes of heat coming off this disc-shaped object, Corbell explained. This was captured on a thermal sensor. It should have detected heat if any traditional propulsion was present, but there's none. That's one of the wildest aspects. In simple terms, that means it's unclear exactly how the disc is being powered. Terrestrial aircraft tend to use jet or propeller engines, which can leave obvious trails across the sky. The footage was extensively studied within intelligence community investigations for years, known to those with high-level access, but never intended for public release. Corbell and Knapp said they spent over 2 years validating the authenticity of the clips with multiple sources, including individuals who actively work in official U.S. government UFO programs. The source is legit. We know it's real, Knapp confirmed during the latest episode of their podcast, Weaponized. It was not supposed to be made public, but it should have been. The object is estimated to be between 200 and 400 meters in diameter. Wait a minute. Let me stop for a minute. 200 to 400 meters. That is easily 600 to 1,200 feet in diameter, which is crazy. Though Corbell admits its exact size is still being debated, with further analysis required to offer more accurate perspective on its size. There's depth of field. There's relative distance. The shape is undeniable, Corbell said, and the movement is extraordinary. You're seeing it dip into clouds, then emerge and reverse direction. That's not an artifact. That's a real object in motion, as depicted here on the screen. If you guys haven't seen it, it's online for you to see. Let's see here if it'll let us actually take a look. I'll show the pictures here. All right, so this is one of the images here. Let's see if we can get to the second one. This depicts the object. Now, this is mind-blowing for a second. 600 to 1,200 feet roughly wide. That's crazy. That's 600 feet. So it'd be about 60 stories, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, roughly, right? Okay. To 1,200 feet. That is insane. If that's that big. Okay, that's Corbell. We don't need to see him. Okay, let me go ahead and close that out. All right, video one, the raw capture from the reconnaissance platform where the disc can barely be seen at first as it enters frame. Video two, a government-enhanced zoom version revealing the object's distinctive saucer shape and directional shift. Video three, a heavily enhanced clip used by the military for analysis showing the disc in greater detail, but with a glitch that highlights the risk of overprocessing. So if you've seen the video feed of this, it shows video one, video two, video three, and that's exactly what we just read here. Online investigators have already begun poring over the footage, which includes geolocation data in the bottom left corner of the screen. Those coordinates point to the border region of Afghanistan and Pakistan, an active conflict zone with strategic surveillance interests. The public has a right and a need to know, Corbell said. This capture is worthy of serious disclosure, not just in the UFO community, but in international and scientific conversations. It challenges our understanding of what's flying through our skies. Corbell and Knapp have not disclosed how they obtained the footage, only stating that it was leaked and that they took extreme precautions to protect sources. This is just the start, Corbell teased. Jeremy Corbell, okay, is an investigative filmmaker. Okay, so we know that. Let me see. Okay, so that's the end of the article. So, actually just found out something I didn't know. So 600 to 1,200 feet is insanely big. Okay, so let's think about that for a minute. What does this remind you of? What is this? Now, I didn't know it was that big. That's huge. But what does this remind you of? Corbell even pointed to it when they released the video, kind of points to the movie. Nope, the movie we've all seen. And in the movie, obviously, this craft appears to be alive. And it is exhibiting the same sort of behavior. So if you go to my channel, I did a show on this specifically where we kind of dig down deep into details on and show the videos and all that sort of thing. So you should go check it out. But the thing of it is my question was, is it coincidence that we have a movie called Nope that depicts a craft that seems to be alive, right? Or at least alert, moving and hiding inconspicuously in the clouds, trying not to be detected, right? This is exactly what the movie Nope depicts, but the craft is alive. So we know that Steven Spielberg, with the Close Encounters of the Third Kind, had inside information in order to put the movie together. And as I point out in the video, Steven Spielberg, believe it or not, As epic as that movie was, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, he has never had a UFO sighting, ever. Never had a UFO sighting, but the film that he made on UFOs is accurate to life as far as the things depicted in the movie. So the question has always been, who did he talk to? Someone on the inside had to let him know, because there's no way you can hit the nail on the head like this and be this accurate. Now, I tell the story, and I'll do it again here with the movie Note. I went to go see it, just like all of you in the theater, and we all thought, okay, nuts and bolts craft. This is a nuts and bolts craft movie. Extraterrestrials piloting a nuts and bolts craft. We go see the movie. We find out it's not that. We find out that he's actually taken. We didn't see one extraterrestrial. I guess the extraterrestrial in this case would have been the UFO. The UFO itself was alive. If you've ever seen my UFO sighting, I took in the middle of the day, 12 in the afternoon, clear blue skies. I caught 47 objects at one time in the sky, kind of maneuvering and going in and out of formation. And these objects appeared to be alive, although they were metallic. So make that make sense? I have no clue. These objects all disappeared in the thin air. They were just gone, poof, right in front of your eyes. So when I want to see the movie Note, I'm in the theater. I'm expecting nuts and bolts craft, just like you, most of you probably were too. The movie ends, and it's like, okay, it was alive this whole time. Okay, and it's dead. Okay. So I'm sitting there in the theater as credits are rolling, and I'm like, I don't know. How do I feel about this? I don't know. I sat there for about 5 minutes before the credits ended. I get up, I'm starting to walk to the car. By the time I get to the car, it clicks for me, and I'm like, you know what? That was actually a genius angle to take. And then I thought about my sighting, things seeming to be alive. Then also it made me think about one of the whistleblowers in the Stephen Greer Disclosure Project 2.0, who talked about traveling down a deserted road with his wife close to a military base and coming across this craft that was kind of hovering off the side of the road. He said he got out, went up to the craft, touched it, kind of rubbed his hand up it, rubbed his hand down it. He said it felt like a cat's tongue, almost like shark skin, and felt like it was alive. You see, he even said it purred, is what he said when he rubbed it. So I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm thinking about why Jordan Peele, you got a big budget movie. You could simply mail it in and just say, okay, nuts and bolts craft, aliens, that's the typical thing. So to take a risk and go so far off base, why would you do it? Why would you do it? That was always the question that I would ask. And it's like, okay, is there an element of the phenomena where these craft are alive? And we actually go more into detail on the show that I did, because there's things in the upper atmosphere, plasma-like entities, and we kind of talk about that. But kind of focusing on the movie aspect of this, it's like, okay, who is Jordan Peele talking to? Because apparently with this video Corbell released, there's no way when you put these two things side by side, they're too similar for it to be coincidence that this military video just existed, and then Jordan Peele decides to take this particular route with the movie. So did he see the video, Jordan Peele? Did he see this video a few years ago and kind of, that kind of point his direction towards going this route with the craft being alive? So you got to ask yourself that. And if this is the case, as the conversation has shifted within the UFO community, a few years ago, Lou Elizondo first came out. First few years is just simply nuts and bolts craft with extraterrestrials visiting. Then in the last couple of years, it's kind of veered into, for whatever reason, all the people at the top that are talking about this have veered into like a sort of spiritual aspect. And it's like, okay, why such a hard shift? Why nuts and bolts and then just overnight spiritual, right? Then you get the Lou Elizondo somber comment. And I pointed this out because if a part of this phenomena ends up being craft being alive, as crazy as that sounds, that's pretty somber, right? And that'd be something to think about. Now, finding out now that the craft depicted in the Corbell video is 600 to 1,200 feet wide. If there is any living aspect to this, that's terrifying, actually, right? So I kind of wanted to just point that out because we haven't been able to talk about that here on this show, on the After Hours radio show. So I don't know how you guys feel about that, but we also ended up, kind of taking this, and I might as well get a spoiler. There is a Jordan Peele movie that was scheduled to be released December 25th of 2024, according to the movie studio that he works with. So it was unknown at the time, the title of the movie, but it was scheduled to be released December 25th of last year, which means it didn't come out because we don't have any new Jordan Peele movies. So that means for me that we could potentially have a movie dropping at any time. Now, you have to ask yourself, Jordan Peele was interviewed recently, well, within the last year, and they asked him about a sequel to Nope. And he entertained the idea of continuing down that path with the same aspect. So is there more to this story to tell as far as the whole alive part, the alive craft? Is there an element that we are going to find out where these craft, some of these, are alive? I know it sounds bananas, but why would he do the movie? Why would he take that risk? Big budget movie. And then coincidentally, we have a military video that sort of depicts exactly what he was showing in the movie. That makes you think. You got to think. So we talked about that. And then also going back to Steven Spielberg, and actually there's some new news here because according to something I read recently, actually earlier today, Steven Spielberg is currently, as most of you might know, right now filming a new UFO movie at this very moment. And recently, well, let me say this first. The working title of this movie is still called, I don't know, Disclosure. So you got to ask yourself, what parts will these movies play in this conversation that we're going to have over the next year to 2 years? As these movies come out, I think the angle for Steven Spielberg is going to be something impactful. However, here's what happened. Recently, there had been something that was released, and actually I'll talk to you about this right now. Steven Spielberg has, I'm going to bring up the article for you guys. Give me 1 second here. Okay, this is it right here. So Steven Spielberg's UFO movie shows first footage, reveals villain. So this is news as of just yesterday. So according to Yahoo, there is now some more information on what's the direction Steven Spielberg might be going with this movie. Let me go ahead and read this here. Steven Spielberg recently showed off some new footage from his in-development, long-rumored UFO movie, highlighting some of the action sequences and villain of the movie. What happens in the new Steven Spielberg movie footage? During a recent event honoring a new theater named after the legendary director from Universal Pictures, Spielberg unveiled some new footage from his upcoming movie. According to Variety, the footage didn't fully confirm that UFOs would be involved, but did show Emily Blunt's character being chased by people in unmarked cars. One specific sequence also showed Josh O'Connor and Blunt escaping from a car as it's about to be hit by a moving train. Variety also notes that footage showed more of Eve Houston and Coleman Domingo as they're chased through an action scene that takes them through exploding farmhouses and more. The report also mentions that they believe Colin Firth's character is the villain of the movie, but it's not confirmed as of yet. Spielberg's unentitled UFO movie comes from screenplay written by Jurassic Park scribe David Koepp, based on a story by the Oscar-winning filmmaker. The film's star-studded cast includes Emily Blunt, Wyatt Russell, Josh O'Connor, Coleman Domingo, Colin Firth, Eve Hewson, and Noah Robbins. It is produced by Spielberg and Christy McCosco Krieger for Amblin Entertainment, along with Chris Brigham. This marks Spielberg's first sci-fi movie since directing the 2018 film adaptation of Ready Player One. This will be Spielberg's latest directorial feature project since helming 2022's The Fabelmans, which was loosely based on his early life. The movie was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So, what does that mean? What are we getting here? I feel like it doesn't make sense for a director as big as Steven Spielberg to not address what's currently going on within the UFO community. The blatant disregard of the government in not releasing the truth. The whistleblowers that have come out and risked their safety to talk about the UFO secret. As great as a job it was done 50 years ago on Close Encounters of the Third Kind, you have to feel like this is going to be something that is just as impactful or, momentous to what we're currently going through. So I feel like, and I said this on my other show, is that this movie for sure, and I'm going to say Jordan Peele as well, because it's obvious he's a fan of the subject, and maybe these two ideas merge at some point. Can't wait to see what that is. And I think it's going to be very interesting. And I'm sure this is going to be something that we're going to be talking about on this show coming up here soon in the future. So I wanted to cover that because that was something new that had just came out. And I actually, if I can get a hold of the footage, maybe we'll show it during a break tomorrow, or maybe even after tomorrow's show. If it's out there in the wild, I'll try to find it and see if we can get it. But with that being said, there's a lot going on here. We had a great show here tonight. I think this is another show that we can say moves the needle. Very emotional, impactful show. Thank you once again. We got to thank Julie Ohlson for being willing to be open and sharing her, not just her experience, but her trauma as well. Because I think there's a lot of people that can learn from that and take away from what we did here. And if we did that, then we did our job, right? So we got to thank her for coming on in here. And we got to thank myself for doing hour 3 and holding it down for my guy, Drew Banky, while he's chilling with the fam, moving into the new house. We also got to thank Steve Stockton for Tales Untold Missing Person Mysteries. And we got to thank this guy that you hear right now, Ron Bumbleford, because he's the guy that rocks us out in and out of each and every show, teaching us and telling us to never say never again. Because as we always say right here, the phenomena is real, which means anything and everything beneath that is possible. So you got to open your mind up. If you love what we did tonight, make sure you take your time, hit the thumbs up, also throw your horns up, right? We do appreciate you guys tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best. What's that? We own the night. This show has been copyright SOR Media Ventures Limited, Spaced Out Radio. It has been a pleasure serving you tonight as your host. My name is Mr. Rob G. This is the After Hours Radio Show. And to all you space travelers out there, it's not a goodbye nor a farewell. However, as we go off air for the night, you could best believe we'll be back doing the same thing, same time, same place. So make sure you're there. We would love to see you. Thanks for coming on in, guys. We're going to do this again soon. You guys all take care. guys. We are clear. Fantastic show tonight, guys. Thank you guys all for coming in and being great sports, asking great questions. We want to thank again our guest, Julie Ohlson, for coming in, being awesome. It was a great show. We're going to have her back, obviously, so she can finish this story here and we can hear about the people that came to visit. So we're going to put her on the calendar, make sure that she's back here. And as well, as I always ask, if you have anybody else out there in the world that you think would be a great conversation, something that moves the needle, please go ahead and send me an email. You can do that right on at after hours at spacedoutradio.com. Or if you're on Facebook, go ahead, send me a Facebook Messenger, and we can do it that way. Outside of that, guys, great show. And if you want to know anybody out there who cares about boxing, Jake Paul won. Boo. Where's my, I don't have a boo button, but boo. Jake Paul wins by decision. I wish he would quit cherry picking opponents. And hopefully the next time, maybe I should get up there. Let me go get in the gym, get in shape. You guys have a great rest of your night. I'll see you back here tomorrow with our guest, Karen Dahlman, and Dirty Filth. Dirty Filth will be here with us in the building tomorrow. Make sure that you guys are here. Have a great rest of your night, guys. Take care.
Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.